Am I the asshole for refusing to let my neighbor use my driveway after she's been parking in it without asking? So I 30F live in a suburban neighborhood with my husband 32M. We have a double driveway that fits both of our cars comfortably, and we've lived here for about 5 years. Our next door neighbor, let's call her Linda, moved in a year ago. She's an older woman in her late 50s who seems friendly on the surface but has started to cause some issues. It started a few months ago when I came home and found her car parked in my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake, so I knocked on her door to ask her to move it. She apologized, saying she had a guest over, and her driveway was full. I let it slide that time. But then it kept happening. I'd come home to find her car or sometimes her guests' cars in my driveway. I told her multiple times that it wasn't okay, but she'd just shrug it off and move the car when I asked, often saying things like, "It's not like you were using it right then." The final straw happened last week. My MIL, the one who isn't exactly my biggest fan, was visiting, and I specifically asked her to park in the driveway so she wouldn't block the street when we came home from running errands. Linda's car was there again. MIL was already in a bad mood, and she snidely remarked, "Wow. Even your neighbors walk all over you. I wonder why." I was furious. I knocked on Linda's door and told her that this was the last time she was parking in my driveway, period. She got defensive, saying I was being unreasonable since she only does it occasionally and that it's just a driveway, not a sacred space. Since then, she started giving me the cold shoulder, and I've noticed her glaring at me whenever I'm outside. My husband says I might have gone too far and should have just let it slide, especially since she's older and it's not worth the drama. Even my MIL shockingly agreed, saying that I should pick my battles. But I feel like it's my property, and I shouldn't have to keep asking someone not to use it without permission. At the same time, maybe I overreacted by confronting her so harshly. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let my neighbor park in my driveway and possibly escalating things? Hey everyone, I wanted to update you on my previous post about my neighbor Linda, late 50s, constantly parking in my driveway without asking. For those who didn't see the original post, I 30F live with my husband 32M in a suburban neighborhood with a double driveway. Over the past few months, Linda has repeatedly ignored my requests to stop parking in our driveway. Well, today things finally came to a head. I woke up early for an appointment only to find Linda's car parked in my driveway again, blocking me, and my husband had already left for work, so I knocked on her door and waited for about 15 minutes, but there was no answer. I even tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I was running late and completely fed up, so I called a towing company. They arrived quickly, and as they were hooking up her car, Linda stormed out of her house. Furious, she yelled at me and the tow truck driver, calling me petty and claiming I could have just waited a bit longer or left a note. I calmly reminded her that I'd asked her multiple times to stop parking in my driveway, but she wasn't having it. She ended up paying the towing fee, and now she's absolutely livid. She's been telling other neighbors that I'm a vindictive control freak, and a couple of them have hinted that I might have gone too far. Even my husband thinks I could have handled it differently and avoided escalating things. And, of course, my MIL, who was visiting today, had to chime in with one of her usual subtle digs. As we were sitting down for lunch, she casually remarked, "Some people just can't manage conflict like adults." I'm pretty sure she wasn't talking about Linda. So now, Linda glares at me every time she sees me. My husband is annoyed about the neighborhood drama, and my MIL is treating this like it's my personal failure. I still think I was justified, but I'll admit the fallout is a lot to deal with. Just wanted to keep you all updated. Thanks for all the advice on the last post. Stories number 2. Am I the asshole for refusing to share my bonus with my fiance's family? I 30M work in tech and had a fantastic year at my job. I recently received a significant year-end bonus, $50,000, and I was thrilled. I've been saving for years to buy a house, and this bonus is going directly into my house fund. My fiancée 28F knows this and was initially very supportive. Then she dropped a bomb on me. She asked if I could spare $25,000 of my bonus to help her parents pay off their mortgage. Apparently, her parents have been struggling financially, and she feels it's only fair since we're going to be married and they're going to be my family too. I said no. I've worked extremely hard for this money, and while I feel for her parents, I don't think it's my responsibility to bail them out, especially when I've never even been asked directly by them. Her response: she called me selfish and accused me of not caring about her family. She then brought up how her parents have sacrificed so much for her, and it's the least I could do. She's been cold to me ever since. She's also told her parents about my bonus without my permission, and now I'm getting guilt-tripped by them. They haven't outright asked for money, but they've made several comments about how lucky I am to have extra cash and how some people don't get that kind of opportunity. When I mentioned that I plan to use the money to help secure our future with a house, my fiancé said, "What future? You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me. I don't think I should have to justify how I use my bonus, but now even my own friends are split on whether I'm being reasonable or stingy. Stories number 3. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my niece's college after she publicly humiliated me? Advice needed. I 45F am child-free by choice but have always been close to my brother 47M and his daughter, Emily 18F. Over the years, I've saved up a decent amount of money, and I offered to help pay for Emily's college when the time came. She's a smart kid, and I wanted to give her opportunities one never had growing up. Everything was fine until last month. I was invited to Emily's high school graduation party, which was a big deal in our family. During the party, Emily gave a speech thanking everyone for their support. She thanked her parents, her grandparents, even her friends. Then she paused, looked at me, and said, "And a big thanks to Aunt Me for not having kids so she could spoil me like I'm hers. Must be nice having all that extra money and no responsibilities." The entire room laughed, and I froze. I could feel everyone looking at me, and all I could do was smile awkwardly. I've heard jokes about being child-free before, but this felt cruel and unnecessary, especially since I've sacrificed a lot to save for her future. My brother and sister-in-law laughed too, which hurt even more. After the party, I confronted Emily privately. She rolled her eyes and said it was just a joke, and I needed to lighten up. My brother brushed it off, saying, "Teenagers can be dumb, don't take it personally." I've spent weeks thinking about this, and I've decided to withdraw my offer to pay for her college. I feel like she doesn't respect me or the effort I've made to support her. When I told my brother, he blew up at me, calling me selfish and accusing me of punishing Emily for one harmless joke. Emily hasn't apologized, and now I'm questioning if I'm being too harsh. Stories number 4. Am I overreacting? My fiancé asked me not to wear white at our wedding. Hey everyone, not sure if this is the update everyone wanted, but this is what happened since my last post. I laid out a couple of talking points that I couldn't articulate over the rage. I met up with John after work at home. I was at the gym letting off steam. We spoke on everything and made plans to speak to his mother. John came home remorseful. He told me he was anxious about it and brought it up to a coworker/friend about how I don't want to comprise. Apparently his friend, God bless his soul, went off on him about him being cringy. This angered me. So when I say it's a problem, but another man tells you and now you see the other side. I brought up my talking points. Him being easily being manipulated. This was also proved when I said he would listen to whatever another man said before his partner. Even though his friend agreed with me, it hurt that he didn't listen to me. His mom going out of her way to break us up with this silly request. He was way more open to this theory now, knowing how cringe he looks even telling this situation to someone else. I compared it to a father removing a bride's wedding garter. He got the point. Him agreeing to his mom's crazy request before even talking to me. He claimed he didn't, that he told her he'll see how I feel about it and just brought it up to me. I asked why did he not see that his mother walking down the aisle on his wedding day was extremely creepy. He said it's just a dress in his eyes. He just didn't want his mom to miss the wedding. I told him there will be no wedding if he doesn't straighten up. He said he understood. Me showing him how blatantly obvious it was. She hates me. She didn't even ask to wear white alongside me, which is still weird, but that I don't wear white at all as if I'm some impure whore. Thanks Reddit, because I wasn't even thinking of that one. He said he didn't see it that way. He just knew she hasn't been showing up because she said seeing me in white hurts her. So I said, do you not hear your own mom saying she wants to be the bride herself? That she can't stand it being me? It finally looked like a ding light bulb went off in his head. Me asking him what role would she play in our wedding, childbirth, Mother's Day and everything to come. Would I always come second place? He assured me I wouldn't, and he realizes how bad he fucked up. He was just trying to keep the peace. I asked by always making her happy and making me miserable. I refused to live my life this way. He agreed and said he was sorry and that he wouldn't want me to be miserable. We have no children yet, but we created a plan and how to deal with any big milestone. She won't be there for anything unless I'm comfortable with it, and I won't be unless she does a 180. I asked what did his mom say to change his mind, and you all guessed it. She cried about how her baby was getting taken away from her, how she never got her wedding, how his dad left her and she was alone and had no one else, that she felt sick and just wanted to experience a real wedding before she dies. She is perfectly healthy unless there's something she hasn't told us. Elle just told him if that was enough to manipulate him. What's to say he won't turn on me again? He said his friend and dad talked sense into him about how he was going to lose me. I told him today was the last straw for me. He had to do 4 things to keep me engaged to him if he even cared to. Go LC with his mom and do not let her make any decisions on our wedding, which will be postponed another year, to see if he actually sticks to his word. He has to go to counseling individually and couples counseling. He has to speak to his mom with me present about her behavior toward me because every time he goes by himself, he comes back with a reason why he left it alone. He must create strong boundaries and learn to uphold them. He agreed. Then came the bad part. One showed him the post. I felt so bad as he read everyone rip him to shreds in the comments. I could see how uncomfortable he was as he read how much of a mama's boy he was and other things about his mom. He was hurt that I agreed that I should leave. In some comments he read for a few minutes until he saw someone call him a spineless see you next Tuesday and then gave my phone back. He said it was really harsh, but I had to show him how crazy the situation sounded even if it was just to keep the peace on a surface level. Him reading the post was icing on the cake. He said he saw everyone telling me to leave and his heart physically started hurting knowing that he deserved it. We called his dad, who I'm no longer calling future FIL because I will call this wedding off tomorrow if he doesn't have my back. When we speak to his mom, John's dad Dan, who I'll name since he's a big part of this update. Dan also read John the riot act again. He was relieved. John decided to get his act together. We agreed to go to Deb's house tomorrow with Dan and John's aunt. My dad is tagging along. John has said he will tell his mother that she can't under any circumstances make our wedding about her. He also said if she does cry or try to guilt trip him, he will tell her he's going NC. I feel terrible as getting a man to stop talking to his mother isn't something I ever thought I even wanted. I doubt Debbie will come around, especially not tomorrow with all of us against her. I don't know if John will backtrack as soon as he gets there. I have explained if he doesn't grow a spine I'm leaving. He either can marry me or marry his mom. But that's my ultimatum. He said he chooses me. We'll see. I guess this all should make me happy, but I still feel icky. Stories number 5. Am I overreacting? Fiancé asked me to not wear white at our wedding. Edit. The update is up. I couldn't respond to all the comments and I'll say some of you are definitely creative with comebacks and name calling. LOL. Thank you all for the reassurance. Have you ever seen I Love a Mama's Boy? Well, that's my life basically. I 27F have been with my fiancé John 28F since high school. We dated and broke up because his mother Debbie 53F convinced him we were too young to be in love. We broke up and went to college. During my sophomore year we started talking on socials again. He apologized and said he missed me. We got back together. Cue the waterworks. Debbie literally cried the first time she saw we were back together and told John that I have done witchcraft on him. I've always respected Debbie out of respect for my mother and upbringing. I was not raised to go back and forth with my elders, but she definitely abuses that. Since John and I decided to get back together, she has tried to hook him up with women from her church, her job, and even asks her friends for their daughters to give it a shot. John denies all of them and Debbie says that I'm controlling. John has told her to stop, but not in a way I feel she gets the point. Anyway, 3 months ago John proposed. Deb didn't come to the engagement party. Cool. She didn't come to the family dinner we had so both sides could meet. Cool. John's dad came and apologized for his ex's behavior. He left her when John graduated HS. I told him don't worry about it. The problems really began when John decided to confront his mother about how she's behaving toward our whole engagement. This turned on the light bulb in his brain as he's always tried to ignore it and tell me to ignore her. She gave him a sob story about how she got pregnant with him before marriage and never really got to have a wedding, and this is triggering her. She had a shotgun wedding at the courthouse. He asked her what she needed to feel comfortable and she responded that if she wore white and I wore a soft pink or lavender she would feel comfortable. My fiancé, for some reason though this was a fair compromise. He also said not ask that his mom could walk me down the aisle so she can get her moment in her dress. I told him absolutely not and we got into an argument about it. I told him that it's insane that he would argue with me to defend his mom's honor but wouldn't do the same the other way around. He accused me of being petty and selfish. It was bad. We both have agreed to cool off, but by how heated it got I could tell we both almost agreed to call it off. Now we're in a weird space and I love John but now see how much he lets her impact our life. I just imagine her sitting at home with this evil grin knowing she's ruining my relationship with John and he's just putty in her hands. I think I should just call off the wedding. Am I overreacting? Or is it just a color? Stories number 6. Employer rejected me, then sent a list of everything I did wrong. I'm a younger person who is job searching for something full-time for the first time. Haven't been having a lot of luck of course due to the state of the world, but I recently got an interview where I made it all the way to the final round and was rejected. At first, the company was really professional about it. They were kind enough to let me know I'd been rejected and thank me for my time, but then, about 3 days later, I got an email from one of the interviewers, a different one than the one who sent the formal rejection email. The final round had been in front of a panel. The email body text said, "Hey, here's some tips for future interviews," and attached was a Word document with a super detailed list of everything I'd done wrong, including that my answer to the question "what's your favorite book" was too pretentious. Note: The job wasn't for a library or any other book-related field. Although he'd been part of the final round interview panel, he hadn't been present during previous interviews, and this was the first communication I got directly from this guy. Here are all the comments from the document. It was a financial/stock company, but the job wasn't directly connected to stocks. Copywriter position, writing some ad/website update. I can tell you are not passionate about stocks. Every member of this company has been passionately investing in the stock market as a hobby for years. You had basic technical knowledge and that's it. In general, you seem to lack passion. Your answers are very thorough and well thought out, but lack passion. What are you passionate about? I couldn't tell. You were clearly nervous throughout. You lack confidence. When asked about an issue you had overcome, you mentioned something that had happened in a job and not related to our industry. You didn't seem to have an interest in company culture. We mentioned we are a company with lots of events and training workshops, and you didn't ask any further questions there. Your response to the favorite book question sounded pretentious and insincere. Les Miserables simply isn't a book people read for fun. You weren't enjoying yourself at all. We're a friendly company and you were tense and nervous the entire time we talked to you. You let your nerves show. Is this normal? It's left me feeling really terrible. According to him, I did so many things wrong. It's killing my confidence. Hearing that I lack passion is really scary. I'm scared it will affect me in the job search going forward. It's not an issue I ever thought I had, but now it is something that worries me daily. Update. 3 or so years ago, I emailed you concerned about an interviewer who had sent me feedback for a job I didn't get, including saying I lacked passion and some other stuff. I was the one whose favorite book was Les Miserables, and he said I was pretentious. As many commenters guessed, he was trying to hit on me in a negging sort of way. He later tried to ask me out via LinkedIn DMs. Needless to say, it did not work. It took a while, and many other unsuccessful interviews, none of which were as rough as that one, but I eventually found a job in a field I had never considered, where I could put my writing skills to work with much less of a bro culture compared to writing for stocks/finances. I'm still in the job, got a huge promotion this year, and have even written articles about how great of a book Les Miserables is. It's still my favorite and I still reread it regularly. What prompted me to think of sending you an update is this: I recently, as part of my job, interviewed a longtime idol of mine, a celebrity I have looked up to for years, and he said to me at the end of the interview, apropos of nothing, that he had read some of my previous work and could tell how passionate I was about my writing, and that he was so happy to be interviewed by someone so passionate about their work. As for Mr. Interview feedback, no idea how he's doing, and no desire to know, but I'm in my dream job and happier than I ever thought I could be. Thank you again for all of your advice. Stories number 7. Am I the asshole for telling my friend she shouldn't have chosen her sperm donor? My 30F friends 32F and 32F are having their 4th baby. Let's call them Allison and Jenna. They have 3 daughters, already 10, 7. 5 that were birthed by Allison when she was married to her now ex-husband. They decided they wanted to have a 4th because Jenna would like to have another baby and carry the baby. They chose to do a sperm donor through a fertility clinic. It's one of those ones where you flip through a book and pick out the donor based on your chosen criteria, like height, hair color, hobbies, etc. The sperm donor they chose is a black man. Allison, Jenna, and all 3 of their daughters are fully white. I told them that they made a mistake choosing that particular donor and should have chosen a white donor. I told them I feel as though they are doing a disservice to their future child. They will look different than all of their siblings and grow up completely away from any sort of black culture and have no black relatives. They told me I was being racist and that mixed babies are cute. My issue isn't with mixed babies. My issue is that 2 white women chose to have a mixed baby knowing what obstacles she will face and that neither of them will be able to relate to her. Yes, I know they face discrimination as lesbians, but I don't think that's the same as what black people deal with. Am I the asshole for telling her she should have chosen a different sperm donor? Stories number 8. Boomer judged my groceries. Every year my family does one of those adopt a family thing where we work with a local charity and buy presents for a family in need. We got the list this year, and there was an additional note that the mother was having a difficult time breastfeeding and that in lieu of gifts for her, she would like formula. My wife experienced something similar, so of course we bought the mother a gift from the list, and then went to our local warehouse store to get several canisters of formula. When I'm adding them to the cart, a boomer Karen decided to share her opinion that breastfeeding is best for a child. Stop. She looked stunned and started to stammer about the welfare of a child. I'm done taking boomer shit, so I told her that just because the geriatric hamster on a wheel in her head produced a thought, she should keep it to herself. Once again she had diarrhea of the mouth about the virtues of breastfeeding. My brother's wife died in a car accident on Thanksgiving night. He's been rationing the frozen breast milk, but it's running out. Do you want his number to tell him about your thoughts? Oddly, she couldn't speak after that. Stories number 9. Doctors listen to my husband, but not me. Update. I have a Zoom call tomorrow with the office manager and the practice owner, semi-retired doctor. I'm hoping to get answers to why my treatment is so much different than my husband's. I know why, when my symptoms are supported by the radiology findings, hopefully. I can also get correct medication prescriptions as well. Thanks for the well wishes and advice. Tale as old as time, doctors listen to my husband's concerns but not mine. I have been battling with bronchitis and pneumonia the last week and gave whatever started it to my husband. He made me an appointment at our primary since I wasn't getting better. And went ahead and made one for himself as well before his got as bad as mine. The visit starts fine. I tell my provider I was trying promethazine DM prescribed by the immediate care center, but it's not really helping. My fevers are staying down with Tylenol. And it's painful to breathe, but I don't feel short of air. I ask if I can get a steroid inhaler. I'm asthmatic and in the past this has helped me heal from bronchitis much more comfortably and faster, and ask if I can try a different cough suppressant if there is one. She tells me no to both, asks me to go down for recheck x-rays. And in the meantime my husband is seen. At this point I'm crying, but I'm trying to keep it together. I haven't slept for more than 2 hours at a time because of this cough. It hurts with every inhale, my head is pounding because of how forceful these coughs are. And I'm vomiting at times because the coughing is gagging me, and my doctor, who I previously felt really good about, told me essentially tough shit. My x-rays show my pneumonia is improving with antibiotics, but my bronchioles are more inflamed than they were at the beginning of the week. Still says no to steroids. She sees my husband, who complains of a similar cough keeping him up, the promethazine DM not really helping with the cough. Can he get steroids? Also an asthmatic. She prescribes him fucking codeine and a steroid pack. He relays this all to me when we meet back up in the front lobby. And I have never been so pissed at a doctor. I have never requested or used a controlled substance. My ad management is with a non-stimulant medication. The most I have ever asked for pain management is ibuprofen 800s. I haven't slept in days. And my previously trusted doctor dismisses all my concerns, and my husband, who has a fucking cold that started all my shit, is listened to and overprescribed. I've already called the office and asked to speak with the office manager because this is ridiculous, and I've heard of women being dismissed more by doctors than men. But I've never had it happen to me. TLDR, husband and I saw the same doctor, husband for a cold, myself for pneumonia and bronchitis. I was told to tough it out, my husband was overprescribed. Stories number 10. Am I the asshole for telling the guidance counselor my classmate called me a slur? I 17F have a music class with 2 sophomore girls, both 15F, named Addison and Hazel. Fake names. Addison is a sweetheart and I swear she hung the moon. She's super kind and very creative, which I get along with. Hazel is very preppy and popular in her grade for background. I'm bisexual and have been out for about 4 years now. Addison is also on the queer spectrum. Hazel is straight. Yesterday in class, we were tossing light-hearted insults back and forth, then mostly calling me old and me mostly calling them short. Hazel called me a dinosaur and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you from all the way down there." With a small laugh, Hazel immediately shot back, "Well, at least I'm not a fucking F asterisk." Got with zero hesitation. I was gobsmacked, of course, but simply stopped talking to her. After class I pulled her aside in the hall and said, I quote, "Hey, I understand some people are okay with being called that. But I personally have bad history with it. Please don't call me that again." I remember every word because I rehearsed it in my head all class. She said, "Oh, well, it's okay, I have the pass." I sorta scoffed and said, "Okay, who gave you the pass?" She said her best friend and I said, "Yeah, but I didn't. Please just don't call me that." She rolled her eyes and left. I wasn't going to really bring it up again. Being out for such a long time in the South, I've heard way worse. But after school Addison sends me a text with a screenshot of a text from Hazel. This is the exact text word for word. "This one girl got mad at me for saying F asterisk got and said not to say it, and I said nobody getting affected cause of it, and she told me and I said I got the pass, so what? It's just a word." And she, "Who gave you the pass?" And I said that my best friend, and she said I'm not our best friend. Oh, I coulda said SM stuff but I shut. YP bout to piss me off. Ion like her. No ways to hell I'd like her the day it'd be a cold snowy day in hell. I honestly got pissed off at her for the sheer audacity, so I got on her Instagram and Snapchat story and collected all the shit she has said about gay people and people of color. I emailed it all to my guidance counselor. Today she got mad at me because apparently, she had to sit out at practice today and she has detention. I told her I didn't care and it was her fault for talking shit. Am I the asshole? Mini update: I'm normally a polite person, but I plan on confronting her today. She hasn't stopped her shit and she called my close friend they slashed them a ladyboy. It very well may end in a fight, but I outweigh her by 80 pounds so I think I'll be fine if reality hasn't hit her. I guess I'll have to thanks for making me realize just how much of an ass she is. Update: hey guys, thanks for all the support. It was nice to get some feedback, and to the one guy to spam the F slur in my direct messages. You thoroughly made my day. I'm sure you'd like to know that I didn't get physical with Hazel. I got in touch with my principals and the proper response has arrived. She has out of school suspension for 5 days as apparently this is her not second, not third, but fourth offense. Thanks for those who talked me down about fights, I needed that. Stories number 11. Am I the asshole for walking out of my mom's house after she forced my autistic son to eat food he hates? I'm a single dad, 32M, to my 17-year-old son, Ronnie. He's autistic and has some pretty specific food sensitivities. It's not just that he doesn't like certain foods, some textures are genuinely overwhelming for him. Eggplant, asparagus, apples, and Brussels sprouts are on his list of foods he just can't handle, and I've always respected that. My mom, on the other hand, doesn't. She's never really taken the time to understand Ronnie's needs and insists that he's just being picky or difficult. I've tried to explain it to her many times, but she doesn't seem to take it seriously. Recently, she invited us over for dinner. She said it would be a nice family evening, and I figured we'd give it a shot. When we got there, I immediately noticed that most of the dishes she'd prepared were things Ronnie struggles with. It felt intentional, like she was trying to prove a point. Ronnie was visibly uncomfortable but tried to stay polite. I could tell he was trying his best to handle the situation, but eventually, it became too much for him. He started tugging at his hair, something he does when he's overwhelmed. Instead of showing any understanding or compassion, my mom became upset with him for it. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I told her we were leaving and took Ronnie home. He was really upset and told me how embarrassed and humiliated he felt. It broke my heart. Since then, my mom has been flooding my phone with angry messages, accusing Ronnie of being ungrateful and me of spoiling him. She's also posted about the situation on Facebook, calling us both disrespectful and making it seem like she was just trying to help. Some family members think I should apologize to smooth things over. But I honestly don't see why I should. I feel like I did the right thing by putting Ronnie first, but with all the backlash, I'm starting to second guess myself. Am I the asshole? Stories number 12. Am I the asshole? MIL gifting us 5 timeshares in her will costing us $9,500 annually. We asked her not to do this and she lost it. My mother-in-law is gifting us 5 timeshares in her will in which the administrative amount will cost us $9,500 annually. We are not interested in owning timeshares, nor are we interested in paying that much in admin costs. We asked an attorney and he said it is expensive and a hassle to try to get rid of the timeshares. So we politely and respectfully asked MIL not to leave those to us in her will. She absolutely lost it and was extremely upset, saying we were ungrateful and that she is refusing to change her will. We asked if she would be willing to go ahead and transfer the timeshares to someone else before her death, but she refused. Am I the asshole? Edited to add, there is a perpetuity clause on these timeshares. Stories number 13. Boomer lady shocked. I owned the car my husband was driving. My husband and I had just picked up a pizza and got into my Ford Bronco, but he was driving at the time. Before we pull out of the parking lot, this older woman walks up to the passenger window and without any sort of greeting asks, "Do you like this car?" My husband said yes, and then I replied, "Yes, I really love it." She shot me the most confused look and said, "Oh, are you allowed to drive it too?" "It's actually my car, but I guess I do let him drive it sometimes," I said, half laughing. She basically doubled down and said how nice it was of him to buy it for me. I didn't have it in me to explain to this woman that it is possible for a woman to drive, pay for, and own a vehicle, so I just said yep and rolled up the window. She probably wouldn't have been able to handle me telling her I not only own this vehicle, but also my husband's. He technically owns no vehicles. Afterwards, I did feel kind of bad thinking about how owning their own vehicle may not have been an option for her generation of women. Stories number 14. Am I the asshole here for breaking up with my BF because he called my mom the N-word for a prank? I 25F recently broke up with my boyfriend 27M of 4 years over something I'm still processing, and now I'm questioning if I overreacted. My boyfriend and I have had a pretty solid relationship up until now. We were visiting my mom for dinner. For context, my mom is black, and my boyfriend is white. My mom has always been polite and welcoming to him, and I thought he respected her, but during the dinner, my boyfriend decided to pull what he called a prank out of nowhere. He called my mom the N-word in a joking tone with the hard R. The room went dead silent. My mom looked completely stunned and hurt, and I felt like I was in a nightmare. My boyfriend then started laughing, saying, It's just a joke, I was kidding, as if that would magically make things okay. I immediately told him to leave, and after some back and forth, he stormed out. I stayed with my mom for the rest of the night, apologizing profusely for his behavior. She reassured me that I'm not responsible for his actions. But I could see how much it hurt her. I just felt horrible. I don't know why he would do it. Even if it was a prank. When I got home, my phone was blowing up with texts and calls from him. He was apologizing but also trying to justify it, saying it was just a word and that he didn't mean it that way. He kept begging me not to throw away our 4 years together over one bad joke. But it wasn't just a joke, it was a blatant sign of disrespect toward my mom and, honestly, toward me as well. The next morning, I texted him that we were done. I blocked him on everything. But he's been spamming my friends, trying to get them to convince me to take him back. A few of them think I was right to end things, but others are saying I should at least hear him out since we've been together for so long. They think I shouldn't throw away years of a good relationship over one mistake. Now I'm sitting here second-guessing myself. Did I overreact? Is 4 years of a relationship worth giving up over this? Stories number 15. Am I the asshole here for refusing to give my late husband's possible affair baby any money? My husband passed away almost 3 years ago, leaving me a solo mom of an 8-year-old. I've learned a lot about who he really was since then. Let's just say that if he were alive, we wouldn't still be married. About 6 weeks ago, a process server showed up trying to serve him with a court order to submit DNA for a kid. I gave him a copy of the death certificate and sent him on his way. Shortly after that, a woman shows up on my doorstep saying that the kid she had with her was my late husband's child. Is it? I don't know and I don't care. It kind of looks like him, but also looks young enough that they would have had to have been conceived very shortly before his death. I told her that he was gone and where she could find his grave. She almost immediately started demanding her half of his estate. I laughed and told her that half of nothing was nothing and she was welcome to that. Where I've been informed that I might be TA is that while it's true there was no estate, there were assets that passed outside of probate. One of those assets was a rental property that his parents gave us years ago, deeded with him and I as joint tenant with rights of survivorship. In short, it became mine when he died. I've already sold it and that will be the money that sends my kid to college legally. I'm good. Already talked to my attorney about this. While I feel bad for this child, I also have a child of my own to look out for. I'm going to edit this to answer a few questions that I've gotten. No, there was no will in place for him in my state. Intestate inheritance laws say that if the only heirs are me and my child, then the first $50,000 of the estate go to me and my child gets half of what's left. If this does turn out to be his child, then half of the estate would go to me and half to the children, i.e. my child would get 25% and the other child would get 25%. However, that is a moot point because his estate was literally an empty bank account and $40 in cash. Everything else passed outside of probate. A good estate attorney is worth every penny. Even if I never could get him to meet with her to do his damn will. There was no life insurance. Yes, I'm in the US and my child is receiving survivor's benefits. They aren't huge, but they do pay for the therapy bills. He hadn't worked for a vast majority of our marriage, but luckily did have enough credits to qualify at this point. I'm not opposed to helping the other child receive the same benefits since it won't affect mine. However, my attorney has recommended to hold off at this time because we don't know what she's planning. She assures me that if the other mother files with Social Security that they will backdate any payments to at least the date filed, so holding off won't affect the total amount if it does turn out to be his child. I have no idea if she knew he was married at the time or not. My husband's parents are alive, but our relationship is strained. At best, I haven't told them about any of this and have done my best to let them keep believing that their son was a saint. Update. So, it is his child, or at least there's enough shared DNA to determine that my in-laws are the grandparents and there's no way that it's their other sons. The biggest update is that the mother doesn't currently have custody. I'm still a bit unsure of the timeline, but there might have already been a CPS case open when she first contacted me. She's apparently a fan of the same illicit substances that my husband was. That would explain how they met. Unfortunately, that means that the child is now in foster care. My in-laws were not deemed an appropriate placement, and I won't do it. I have been working with the caseworker with regards to getting Social Security benefits for the child in my state. Survivor benefits offset any child support obligations, so even if there was an estate, the SS benefits most likely exceed the amount he would owe based on his work history prior to death. This hasn't affected my own child's benefits. I still haven't determined exactly what I will do with this information going forward. I have set aside some money in an online savings account, but it's still in my name until the mother's rights are completely terminated or the child ages out of the system. I don't want anything that would possibly give her access to it. I will also eventually have to tell my child that there is a sibling out there. I've been through the ringer over the last couple of months and I'm still just so fucking mad that I'm still cleaning up my husband's mess. Stories number 16. Am I the asshole here? My kid wants me to drive 3 hours a day taking them to from work. I said no. My 20-year-old child was offered a job 45 minutes from our house. They have no driver's license yet, and a car that was given to them, but they do not drive due to having no license. They were just offered a job at a location 45 minutes from our house. Taking them to from work every day would take me 3 hours. I work from home, and I have responsibilities. Also, I just do not want to drive for 3 hours every day. I wouldn't do that for any job. My kid says I should be supportive and drive them. But I am just not going to do it. I told them that this was an unreasonable request, and I'd be willing to do one trip 15 hours only. There isn't run public transportation here either. Am I the asshole here? Edit. I use the words child and kid because they are non-binary, not because I am implying that they are not an adult. Edit 2. For more info, they did have a learner's permit at one time and allowed it to expire. They did not want to learn to drive with our cars because we have 2 stick shift vehicles. They have had a car for 4 months that is not a stick shift. A long-standing anxiety disorder / therapy is ongoing. We moved to the country not near public transportation. 1 year ago from a more urban suburb with public transportation. My adult child does currently have a job 20 minutes away and I spend 1 hour and 20 minutes each day going to from there. This is due to driving there, going back home. I work from home, then going back later to pick them back up. Stories number 17. Am I the asshole for not accommodating SIL's food allergy? 38M, married with 3 kids recently. My mom turned 65 and begged to see her kids' grandchildren on her birthday. I have an older brother who's married with 4 kids ages 2 to 12, only youngest 2 are his, and a much younger brother 23 who's single. My wife and I offered to host a weekend get-together. My older brother had to work late the first night, but his wife Emily, fake name, offered to come earlier in the day with the kids and cook dinner for everyone. Emily is a great cook and her parents own a local restaurant that's well known for a dish they serve once a month. Emily is the chef for that dish and my wife and I have had it, but my mom and brother haven't tried it. I asked Emily when she arrived that day if she would make the dish and she agreed. I had most of what she needed, but I told her to text my younger brother for any extra items and I would pay for them. Dinner went great, food was wonderful, but at some point, my mom took a picture of her plate and sent it to my older brother with a caption that said something like "You're missing out." And then it all went to shit. The reason Emily only makes this dish once a month at the restaurant is because she's highly allergic to one of the main ingredients. Her parents are weirdly protective of the recipe and won't let anyone else cook it. I assumed this was common knowledge within my family, but she and my brother have only been together about 5 years. So maybe it hasn't come up. In any case, my brother was furious that I asked her to make it. My little brother said I was disgusting. My mom dramatically claimed that I put her in danger. Frankly, I think the reaction was ridiculous. She's a grown woman and clearly knows how to manage her allergy. It's not like she ate it also. Emily didn't seem upset about anything and was off watching a movie with all the kids, so didn't hear any of this. I kind of thought it had blown over after a couple hours, until my older brother got there around midnight and found Emily in the kitchen eating some cereal. He told me it was bullshit that I made her cook a meal she can't eat and then let her eat cereal again. This woman is a grown-up. She could have asked my little brother to get her something else to cook for herself, but she didn't. At that point, I was tired. My wife had cleaned the kitchen and Emily had gotten the kids in bed, so when my older brother pulled out a chicken breast saying he was going to cook something for Emily, I put my foot down and said no. I feel like my family babies Emily, as it is lots of reasons for this. I understand it, but it's frustrating and I wasn't willing to let my brother make another mess cooking a whole other meal at 12 a.m. The whole rest of the weekend was awkward and strained and basically ended with my mom and younger brother telling me that I ruined the whole get-together. Do I not get to set boundaries in my own house? Edit and update. I can see that I'm definitely the got it. I showed my wife this post and the replies this morning. She hasn't commented much on this situation and said today it was because she was so embarrassed by my behavior that she didn't know what to say, but she agreed with almost everyone. I called Emily this morning and my brother answered her phone. I talked to him for about an hour and then was able to apologize to Emily. She explained that she said yes to cooking because she knew how much I liked the dish and also she doesn't think I like her that much, so she was worried I would be upset if she said no. My brother also explained that her allergy has topical effects as well, and the cooking process gets the allergen everywhere, which is why she hates cooking it so much and also why she can't make anything else for herself at the same time. Please note that I know I was the asshole. Even without this info, it just makes it worse. It also makes me look at the situation with her parents differently because they've been having her make this meal for years and downplaying the skin reactions like it's not a big deal. I work in a really cutthroat, callous environment. It's not an excuse to be thoughtless with my family, but I do think it's had some clear effects in my general attitude toward other people. I do like Emily. She improved my brother's life profoundly when they got together, which is part of why my family loves her like they do. Emily was more gracious accepting my apology than I deserve, but she did also tell me that she won't be accepting invites to my house again for a while, which I think is fair. I was mad at first reading a lot of the comments, but I needed the reality check. Thanks. Stories number 18. I think my 28F partner 30M of 10 years might have abandoned me and our baby. I don't even really know what to say. Thank you in advance to whoever reads this. I don't know what to think or do anymore. I feel completely heartbroken and confused and really need some advice and empathy. To start, my fiancé wanted a family. We bought a house together a few years ago, but only his name went on the title because most of the down payment came from his RSP. This made me a bit uncomfortable, but we were planning to get married after saving a bit more, so I agreed. I paid all our moving costs and furnished the entire house. So we both spent about the same. We had our daughter last November, a planned child he claimed to have wanted when I was pregnant. He suddenly started gambling, something he'd never done before. He gambled away a few of his paychecks, and finally after a month I managed to get him to agree to give me control of his account. I give birth when I'm 4 weeks postpartum. He claims to get the flu and spends an entire month at his parents' house to avoid infecting the baby. I thought he'd be there for a few days at most. He returns in March. He claims there's a giant work project that he needs to throw his all into. He works from home, and since I was on an unpaid mat leave, self-employed, he was the breadwinner. He stopped speaking to me, claiming he's so busy with work and he's so stressed that he doesn't even have time to say hi to me in the morning. However, he's awake all night and sleeping in during the day. Around the same time, HR calls me and says he hasn't logged on in a few days and they send a wellness check. Eventually, after a month and a half of not speaking to me, eating alone in his room, ignoring the baby completely, he demands his bank account back. I have no choice but to give him his card, but I was hoping he wouldn't lock me out of the account. He does. He then gambles again. I decide to go down to my parents' house for a few days. After he rages out at me when I try to talk to him, he basically stops responding to my texts except to tell me to fuck off and that he's depressed. He responds some of the time, saying he's trying to get therapy and saying I can't come back home until he talks to a therapist. This entire time I am stressed knowing he's probably gambling and not paying the mortgage or bills. This continues through June, July, August. He refuses to speak with me. I plead and beg him to talk to me. Finally in September he tells me he's behind on the mortgage and needs money. I send him the money. He thanked me at first and says I'll be able to come home soon. At this point he would barely let me in the house to get mine or our babies things, screaming and freaking out the few times I showed up. He stopped speaking to me again, only responding to tell me to fuck off and stop contacting him. At certain points he tells me he loves me and wants me and the baby to come home soon, but he needed to get through therapy first. This brings me to the present. Just before our daughter's first birthday, he blocked my number and blocked me on Facebook. I have been begging and pleading with him to tell me what's going on, to tell me something, and nothing. We have 4 cats that he wouldn't let me come and get. I own all the furniture and so many belongings in the house, and I have no idea if the mortgage company is going to just repo and trash it all. I have no idea if my beloved cats are okay. I don't even know if we are together anymore. I have tried to get his parents to talk to him. They're in contact with him and gave him money for the mortgage back payments. They just say they don't know and that he won't talk to them about this. I was at my parents' house and now I'm staying in my brother's basement. I feel like I've lost everything. I don't know what happened. Edit. Thank you so much for all of the kind comments. I have felt so alone and just getting this out helped a lot. I have been so depressed over this situation that I feel like I can barely breathe most days. I think I've been in denial, like this can't be actually happening to me, and that one day I'm going to wake up to his heartfelt apology and all the bills fixed and go back to my beautiful house. It was our dream home and we got it for such a deal. Beautiful historic home, 6 bedrooms, original features, huge yard with amazing 100-year-old trees all through the neighborhood. It was the neighborhood I grew up dreaming about living in someday. To know I'll never be able to afford a house on my own and that I have no idea where my daughter will grow up. It is just killing me. I grew up so poor and thought I had finally made it and would be able to give my baby a good life. To just be blocked with no answers, for him to be losing the house and not even give me a chance to take it over for our daughter's sake. He doesn't even know where I'm living right now. I slept on the floor for 2 months when this first started. I thought we were soulmates. Stories number 19. Am I the asshole here for not buying my girlfriend the new Kim Kardashian puffer? Am I the asshole here for not buying my girlfriend the new Skims puffer even though I have money? I 25M recently won $80,000 after taxes and setting aside money for bills savings. I had about $20,000 left over for fun money. My girlfriend 23F of 8 months has been begging me to buy her the new Kim Kardashian Skims puffer jacket that just dropped $398. Here's where I might be I told her no, even though I technically have the money. My reasoning is, we've only been dating 8 months. She makes decent money at her marketing job, $65,000 a year. She already has multiple winter coats. I'd rather spend my winnings on things we can both enjoy or save for our future. She's been giving me the cold shoulder and posting shady TikToks about men who can afford luxury but choose not to spoil their girls. Her friends are blowing up my phone saying I'm being stingy and that a real man would want to see his girl happy. I did buy us concert tickets $800 and took her on a weekend trip $2,000 with some of the money, but she keeps fixating on this jacket, saying it's literally less than 2% of what you won and that I clearly don't value her enough to invest in her happiness. Am I the asshole here for not wanting to spend $400 on a trendy puffer jacket just because I won some money? I feel like she's being entitled, but maybe I'm being too frugal. Edit. She's now threatening to break up if I don't show her I care by buying the jacket. Starting to see some red flags here. Stories number 20. Am I the asshole here for kicking my ex out of his daughter's birthday trip after he kept insisting on bringing his stepdaughter? Long-time lurker here. I have never thought I would have to post a Reddit post about this, but my family is divided, and I need to know whether or not I am being unreasonable. Throwaway for privacy reasons. For the last few months, I 32F have been planning my daughter's Rose, fake name 13th birthday. For her birthday I have been planning a week-long trip to Greece. Rose has been obsessed with Greece for the longest time and has been begging to go there forever, and now I have finally saved up enough to give her a special birthday. The problem, however, is with my ex Alex. Ever since I started planning the trip he has been pushing for me to invite his stepdaughter Mary. For some context, Alex and I broke up a few years after Rose was born due to cheating during the pregnancy. We lost touch for a year or two before he came back asking to be in Rose's life. I agreed to co-parent with him, and things were going well, all things considered, that is until he got married to his new wife, Sarah, who already had Mary from a previous relationship. Sarah and I get along really well, and so do Mary and Rose. The issue is not with his new family but with Alex. Ever since he got married to Sarah, all his attention has gone to Mary. At first, I understood he needed her to get comfortable with him being her new dad, but it has reached the point where he barely even puts any effort with Rose. He has missed several of her important competitions and events as well as her birthday just because he had to take Mary to the dentist, or Mary needed someone to pick her up from school, or he wanted to take Mary to the movies. All are excuses he has actually used when I confronted him about his absence in his daughter's life. I should clarify that I have no issues with Mary, the first love, the kid, but my issue is with Alex acting like she is his only daughter. I have talked to him about this several times, and he always uses the excuse that Mary needs a dad too before telling me to stop acting selfish and to appreciate he was in Rose's life at all. While planning for the birthday I didn't invite Mary and Sarah deliberately so he could spend time with Rose on the trip. I did ask them beforehand if they were okay with it. Mary doesn't like traveling anyway, so they both agreed to not come. Alex, on the other hand, has been refusing to accept this and kept pushing for me to invite her anyway, saying it will be good for the girls to hang out. I have been refusing to budge, and it all came to a head last week when I asked Alex to confirm the dates and he said he wasn't coming unless I invited Mary. The first obviously said no, but he didn't back down. I finally had enough and told him that if he wouldn't come unless Mary came then he shouldn't bother coming at all. He tried to argue, but I haven't spoken to him since then. He has been blowing up my phone, but I honestly don't have the energy to deal with him. Some of my friends have been calling me asking why I uninvited him and saying I was acting like a bitch. My mom agrees he was being unreasonable but also said I was being cruel by kicking him from the trip entirely. My sister, however, agrees that he shouldn't come at all. I was very sure of my decision before, but now I am starting to think I overreacted. I don't want Rose to think he doesn't care enough to come at all, but if I agree he will spend the entire trip with Mary. I know he will because he has done it before, and I don't think that is much better for Rose. Everyone is divided and I need to be sure whether or not I am overreacting. Am I being the jerk here? Edit. I was not expecting so many comments. I didn't expect this to get as much traction as it did, and I am having some trouble answering them all, and I won't be online for long, so I hope this answers your questions. The first I am seeing is that my ex is Mary's dad. That wouldn't be possible. I have met her father, she looks a lot like him too. Does my ex have bad intentions with Mary? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I think he thinks of her more like the daughter he has always wanted. They also share many interests. Are Mary and Sarah okay with all this? No, they have been trying to convince him to let it go, but my ex is very stubborn. I also asked them not to be involved so the drama would die on its own. Is this what Rose wants? She really wanted her father to come. She loves the man a lot, but I will ask her since it is her trip and her choice. Would she want Mary to come? Yes, Rose looks up to Mary and the two get along even without my or Sarah's involvement. They are naturally friends. If you have any other questions, I will try and find the time to answer them. For now, thank you all for the support as well as the valuable advice and insights. I feel much less stressed about this. I will have a chat with Rose and update you all when I can. Hello again, Reddit. I wasn't planning on updating, but since we're heading to Greece tomorrow, Rose asked me to share an update for those who were interested. Here it is. I hope those curious about how things turned out are able to see this. Here is some context for anyone who needs it. Original. A lot has happened since my last post, so I'll try my best to explain everything clearly. This might be long, so I'll start with a summary for anyone who doesn't want to read the full story. Sarah found out about Alex's cheating in our previous relationship, and after her hit her, they're getting a divorce. Mary and Sarah will be joining us on the birthday trip. I'm filing for a legal custody agreement and child support. Alex's insistence on bringing Mary to Greece was so he could one-up Sarah's ex-husband. Now, for those who want the full details. After my last post, I called Rose's therapist for advice on how to approach the situation. Following his advice, I sat down with Rose, explained everything, and even showed her the post. I reassured her repeatedly that none of this was her fault and apologized for making decisions without coming to her first. I told her to take her time processing everything and let her know I was ready to listen whenever she was. I am glad I did so because a few days later, Rose came to me with her thoughts. Giving her time to reflect really helped her articulate herself and think everything through. She decided not to invite her dad on the trip but was against cutting him off completely. While I initially disagreed, I respected her decision and didn't push the matter. We discussed a lot of other things, but I'd prefer to keep those private. I also suggested family therapy, which she agreed to. And I've booked sessions for next year. She will still be going to individual therapy and so will I. I hope that it will help us communicate better and also help me with making better decisions in the future as her mom. By the end of our talk, we shared a much-needed cry which, I admit, I initiated, hugs, and then watched Mamma Mia. Side note, to the commenter who suggested the movie, thank you. Rose and I loved it so much we watched the sequel the same day. It was the perfect choice to get us excited for the trip. We are thinking of watching it again by the end of the trip as well. Now, on to the drama. I reached out to Sarah and invited her over to talk about Alex. I showed her the post, including the comments concerned about Alex's relationship with Mary. While I didn't share those concerns, I wanted Sarah to decide for herself. As she read the post, she got to the part where I mentioned Alex's cheating. She was confused and asked what I meant. I explained how, during my pregnancy, I discovered texts and pictures from other women on Alex's phone. When confronted, he admitted to cheating because he wasn't ready to be a dad. That was why we broke up. And he disappeared for a while before returning to be part of Rose's life. Sarah was furious. According to her, Alex had told her I cheated on him, and that's why he wasn't involved in Rose's early years. According to him, it was because he wasn't sure if she was his. Hearing this, I was livid. I've never been with anyone other than my ex, romantically or otherwise. Between raising Rose and building a career, I never had the time. Alex's life didn't even serve a purpose since Sarah and I had always gotten along. After our conversation, Sarah assured me she was going to talk to Mary and confront Alex. A few days later, she called me while crying, asking if Mary could stay with me for a while. I checked with Rose, and she was fine with it, so I agreed. From what Sarah told me, she confronted Alex about the real reason we broke up. During their argument, Alex was furious, possibly drunk. It is unclear, and hit her. Sarah had a visible bruise on her face. When I arrived, I was and am still shocked by this. Alex had never been violent during our relationship and never even showed any signs of being violent. I am still having trouble believing it's true, which I feel really bad about considering how he left Sarah. A huge chunk of her face is swollen and bruised really badly. He didn't just hit her, he punched her really hard that she said she thought he knocked her out. Sarah doesn't have family nearby, and Mary's father is away due to his job as a pilot, so Mary has been staying with us while Sarah handles the situation. After hearing about what happened, Rose invited both Mary and Sarah on the trip, which is incredibly kind of her. My sister canceled anyway since she couldn't secure a sitter and didn't want to travel with the baby yet until she is older, so it will be me, Rose, Sarah, Mary, And my mom, it was the same amount of people who were coming originally, so I didn't have to make new accommodations for them. As far as I know, Sarah hasn't made a report or anything yet, so Alex hasn't been arrested. As for why Alex wanted Mary to join the trip, his mom unintentionally told me everything about a week ago. She called asking to see Rose before we left for the trip. I wasn't really keen on the idea, but I agreed as long as Alex wasn't there during our visit. She rambled on about how Sarah's family made Alex feel unappreciated, how Mary didn't call him dad, and how Sarah's ex-husband was always showing him up, basically going on a rant about her poor son who everyone is against these days. You heard that right, folks. This idiot was doing all this not because he cared about either of the girls, but he wanted to be better than Sarah's ex. I am honestly still freaking pissed. When writing this, he ruined his relationship with our daughter and used Mary to make himself look better than Mary's dad. I don't want to believe that it's the case and that I am misunderstanding, but it is something Alex can and has done before. I even talked to Sarah about it and she agreed this might be the case, although it is just a speculation based on what his mom has told me. It is the most likely case since Mary has denied him being inappropriate with her. I have cut off Alex, his mom, and told Rose we can revisit seeing him only after I have a legal custody agreement and child support. Both can take a long time, which I am grateful for. I am hoping it will give Rose some time to think more about her relationship with her dad. Sarah has filed for divorce, which I am helping with. She and Mary have been through a lot. Thinking about how this whole thing started, it feels so silly. It's been a mess, but that's the update. Thank you to everyone who supported and advised me. Your insights were greatly appreciated. We're looking forward to our trip, and I'll be focusing on giving Rose the special birthday she deserves. Stories number 21. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my mom back into my life after she tried to replace me? Okay, so I 27F have a really complicated relationship with my mom. My dad died when I was 10, and after that, it was just me and her. We were really close for a while, but then when I was 15, she started dating this guy Mark. At first, I was happy for her, because she seemed happy, and I wanted her to be, but then everything changed. Mark had 2 kids from his previous marriage, twins, 14M and 14F, and when they moved in, it was like I stopped existing to her. She'd spend all her time with them, buying them new clothes, taking them to fun places, and just completely ignoring me. I'd ask her if we could have a girls' day like we used to, and she'd say, "Oh honey, we'll do that soon." But we never did. It got worse when Mark started treating me like a burden. He'd make snide comments about how I was too emotional or not trying hard enough to fit in. One time, he told me I should be grateful they were even letting me stay there, in my own house, when I told my mom how much it hurt. She said I was being dramatic and that Mark's just trying to help you grow up. By the time I was 18, I couldn't take it anymore. I moved out as soon as I could and went low contact with her. She didn't even seem to care. No calls, no visits, nothing. Meanwhile, she kept posting on Facebook about her beautiful family and how proud she was of Mark's kids. It felt like she'd replaced me completely. Fast forward to now, I'm engaged, and my fiancé is amazing. He knows everything about my past and has been so supportive. We're planning our wedding, and I decided not to invite my mom. Honestly, she feels like a stranger to me at this point. But then out of nowhere, she called me. Apparently, Mark left her for someone else, and now she's lonely and wants to reconnect. She said she's sorry for how things turned out and that she wants to be part of my big day. I told her no. I said she made her choice years ago, and I'm not interested in letting her back into my life just because she's alone now. She started crying and said I was being unfair, that family is family and I should forgive her. Now my relatives are blowing up my phone, saying I'm being cruel and that I'll regret it if I don't let her come. But honestly, I don't think I owe her anything after the way she treated me. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let her back in? Stories number 22. Update: am I the asshole for walking out of my mom's house after she forced my autistic son to eat food he hates? Hey, everyone, first, I wanted to address a few comments I've seen on my original post. Some of you were confused about this account and thought it didn't fit me. That's because it isn't mine. It belongs to my niece. She barely uses Reddit and kindly let me use it since I'm not great with tech and didn't feel like setting up my own account just to share this. I didn't think this would get so much attention. I also saw some comments accusing me of enabling Ronnie's pickiness or saying I'm letting him eat an unhealthy diet. I want to clarify that Ronnie does eat healthy and has a balanced diet. He just has specific sensory sensitivities, like many autistic people do. Certain foods, like eggplant, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts, don't sit right with him because of their textures or tastes, not because he's picky. Forcing him to eat things that overwhelm him isn't helpful or healthy, and I'll always respect his boundaries when it comes to food. My mom is still slandering me on Facebook, calling me ungrateful and claiming I'm ruining Ronnie by not letting her fix him. She's been spreading misinformation about autism and accusing me of alienating her from Ronnie. It's exhausting, but I've been ignoring her as much as I can and focusing on Ronnie's well-being. I've decided to channel my frustration into a project, a revenge dinner. It's petty, sure, but after what she put Ronnie through, I think it's a fitting way to make my point. I'm planning a meal with all the food she absolutely despises: liver, black licorice, pickled herring, and a mushroom-heavy casserole. She can't stand mushrooms. Of course, I won't force her to eat anything. I'm not her, but I think the message will be clear: respect other people's boundaries, especially when it comes to food. If she doesn't show up, well, that's fine too, it'll just be a fun dinner for me. Thank you to everyone who's been supportive. Ronnie is doing much better now that he's in a calmer environment, and I'm doing my best to keep things peaceful for him. I'll let you all know how the dinner goes. Stories number 23. Am I the asshole for not selling my car even though my fiancé refuses to sit in the front seat because my ex sat there? Hi, everyone, I'm 27M, engaged to my fiancé 26F, and while we're preparing for our wedding, something recently came up that's left me confused and conflicted. I want to know if I'm in the wrong here or if her reaction is unreasonable. Here's the issue: my fiancé refuses to sit in the front seat of my car because my ex used to sit there. She says it makes her uncomfortable and feels like she's taking what someone else's instead. She insists on sitting in the back seat whenever we go somewhere. Which honestly feels strange to me, like I'm her chauffeur. I offered to sell the car if it truly bothers her, but she told me not to because it would feel like she's forcing me to do something. However, she still won't sit in the front seat and avoids interacting with anything related to my past relationships. This is part of a bigger pattern. She's mentioned multiple times that she doesn't want to do things I've done with my ex, like cuddling on the couch during a movie or visiting places I've been to before. I've tried to be understanding of her feelings, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being held responsible for my past. Which I can't change. It's also confusing because she keeps in touch with her own ex, occasionally texting or calling him, which I have no issue with as I trust her. Whenever these situations come up, she tends to withdraw emotionally, avoiding physical affection, not saying goodnight, or being distant. While I love her and want to work through this, I'm starting to feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her emotions, especially when they're tied to things I can't control, like my past. TLDR, my fiancé refuses to sit in the front seat of my car because my ex sat there and avoids doing things I did with my ex. I offered to sell the car, but she doesn't want me to, even though she won't engage with it. Am I the asshole for not selling the car and thinking her behavior is unreasonable? Stories number 24. Japan's birth rate plummets for 5 consecutive years. Japan is still waging an all-out war to maintain its population of 100 million. However, the goal of maintaining the Japanese population at over 100 million is becoming increasingly unrealistic. As of November 1, 2024, Japan's population was 12,379 million, a decrease of 850,000 in just 1 year, the largest ever excluding foreigners. It is around 1205 million. The number of newborns was 720,000. The lowest ever for the 5th consecutive year. The number of newborns fell below 730,000 20 years earlier than the Japanese government had expected. The birth rate plummeted from 145 to 120 in 2023. Furthermore, the number of newborns is expected to decrease by more than 5% this year compared to last year, so it is likely to reach 11 in 2024. Nevertheless, many Japanese believe that they still have 20 million left, so they can defend the 100 million mark if they faithfully implement low birth rate measures. Even now, however, experts analyze that in order to make that possible, the birth rate must increase to at least 207 by 2030. In reality, it is highly likely that it will decrease to 0, let alone 2. The Japanese government's plan is to increase the birth rate to 18 in 2030 and 207 in 2040. Contrary to the goal, Japan's birth rate actually fell to 12 in 2023. Furthermore, Japan already has 30% of the elderly population aged 65 or older. So a birth rate in the 0 range is much more fatal than Korea, which has not yet reached 20%. In addition, Japan's birth rate is expected to plummet further as the number of marriages plummeted by 123% last year. Japanese media outlets argued that the unrealistic population target of 100 million people should be withdrawn, saying that optimistic outlooks are a factor in losing the sense of crisis regarding fiscal soundness. Stories number 25. I asked a guy if he'd get an STD test. And he proceeded to tell me that I'm weird and that he got a weird vibe off me. We had been video chatting on Bumble for like 5 minutes. He asked if I would like to go there or have him drive to my city to meet for coffee. I said he could drive here, which he looked irritated by. It's an hour's drive. 10 years ago, I would have done the drive, but I've realized it's better to see a man put in effort. I asked what he did for work. And he told me that he quit his job. I asked why, as quitting a job out of the blue can be a red flag, he said, for work-life balance, which, to me, is weird because I would never quit a job without having a backup in place. He did not have a backup. In our conversation, I said that a friends with benefit situation would be nice. This is something that he asked me if I were interested in at the start. While I told him it would be nice, I also told him it would take me time to get to know him and see if there were chemistry and all that. Then I asked about STD testing and all of a sudden I'm weird. So there you have it. Putting effort into seeing a woman is weird. Getting to know someone is weird. Health is weird. Quitting your job and laying around at home. Normal, something to aspire to. Edit. When he called me weird, I said, what? He repeated himself, adding on the vibe thing. I said, oh, okay, and I immediately ended the call and unmatched him. Stories number 26. I organize orgies. Can I talk about it in my job hunt? I'd like to do more of that professionally, but I'm not sure how to talk about it in interviews or put it on a resume. For example, I'm applying for a job that asks to see sample curriculums I've developed. My examples have to do with adult topics. Think consent education. Not like graphic how-tos that I think would color their perception of my candidacy. What are your suggestions? Update. When I wrote into you about work for retired organizers, I was mostly writing out of shame. There had been a ton of fun, friendship, and adventure in organizing, but I also thought that it made me sort of marked forever as some class of candidate too gross, too weird to employers. Reading the comments was whiplash. One type was certain that I would engage in further nefarious deeds in the workplace, like not writing my experience from that business as orgy makers or U.S. lead organizer on my resume, or some other line of thinking about how my character was irreparably damaged from my time buying lube in bulk. There were also a ton of people who said things along the lines of, oh, yep, I've needed to be cautious about things in a resume before. People were pointing out my obvious admin and people skills, and you know what? You were right. I do have great administrative and people skills. Some thought it was funny. People conducted sex ed for adults in the comments. What do they do at orgies? Why does it take a weekend? I read all the comments, and you guys were great. Thank you, too, to the commenter who came up with organizer. That is a genius portmanteau. May there always be room in the office fridge for your lunch. May the good parking spot open up before you. What did I do with your advice? I decided fuck them. The global point of no return from climate change is 2 to 26 years away. What is the point of worrying about if every interviewer will like my resume? Universal appeal isn't something we get. I took my skills in finding very discreet Airbnbs and hurting people with cat ears, and now I do an analog letterpress. Business is marketing and administration fun. Weird. Lots of old white men in meaningful hats. Not fracking. Pays the bills. Great. I also teach people how to grow legal psychedelic plants, and am working on a slime mold that I can use for data visualization projects. Which is all to say, don't let the bastards grind you down. There are so many good paths through life as long as you're not hurting anyone. Picking a strange but reliable career path is a totally neutral, or even good, thing to do. Warmly. Former organizer, retired with honors. P.S. A common question that came up in the comments was if the adult weekends were something I was doing as a volunteer / my hobby. Nope. Formal business. I set up an LLC for that business and paid taxes under that designation. Stories number 27. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter's father that I will not be doing a quinceanera for her? Background: I'm 35F and have a 13F daughter who wants a quinceanera, and I'm not comfortable spending that much money on one event. I'm a Hispanic woman who was born in the US, so I'm not a traditional Mexican, and my kids are Americanized. Here's where the issue comes. My daughter's father, 36, who lives with his mom, pays nothing in child support because he's in debt, owes IRS credit card debt. I pay everything for my daughter's school activities, sports, hobbies, clothes, trips, you name it. I pay. I don't ask her dad because he's already paying child support for another son he has with an ex. I am fortunate that my fiancé and I make a good income and can afford to be debt-free by choosing to make wise money decisions. I have a full-time job, do contract work on the side, and part-time master's student at my local university debt-free. My ex approached me when I dropped off my daughter and said that our daughter wants a quince and she wants a party where all her family is in one place. I told him I wasn't doing a quince, but I'd throw a party in our backyard, and he was invited. Our house is nice and our backyard was done a few years ago and is big. The other day he said that his Cousin had a baby shower at a ranch style and that it's $3,000 for the venue for 250 people. On the phone I freaked because I have a lot on my plate and know how much work it takes to plan an event with a lot of people. He said his family is easily 100 people. I have a lot of family too, but I was only planning on only inviting close family and friends. When I tell him no, this is not a quinceanera but a party with food and DJ with tops 100 people, he tell me that I'm starting to really disappoint him, and I tell him that I have a lot going on and that I can't plan something that big with all the stuff I already do and that I don't want to spend a lot of money. Quinceañeras are a lot when you think of the dress dolls, waltz dames, band and etc. They are time consuming and a lot of money goes into them. He gave me $200 the other day and was planning to give me $100 each payday. He's never given me that much money for her since we separated when she was 1. I have final exams this week and I haven't been able to sleep for 2 nights thinking of all the stress this is causing me. Should I give him his money back and tell him that we should each do what we can for her on our own? He causes me stress and I swear talking to him is pointless because he makes me feel like I'm the bad person. Update: I was always planning to throw her a party, not a lavish one but something nice in our backyard, which I told her dad that he was more than welcome to attend. Stories number 28. Am I the asshole for not letting my kids visit their grandparents? Am I the asshole for not allowing my kids to see their grandparents for Christmas break? Hello, everyone. I posted on here a couple of months ago after my ex's wife staged a religious intervention when my son decided he wanted to embrace Judaism and be bar mitzvahed. Post is still under my profile if anyone wants specifics. My ex and I share 3 children, Amy 18, Tom 16 and Ben 15. The people responding to that first post helped me to see that I was underreacting, and I met with a lawyer for a custody order as we had just done our own thing. I now have full decision making for our children's religious upbringing and full custody. X has visitation every other weekend. I have been incredibly flexible and let him take them pretty much whenever he or the kids want. On his weekend I stay with my parents and he stays in the house. Only rule I made was the stepmother is not around them at all ever. My kids are very close with their paternal grandparents. GPs know that stepmother is not to be around them, but twice when I picked them up their excuse was that she had just popped in quickly to drop off the baby. I asked them to let me know when they were sitting and we would plan a different day. But they said that it was a last-minute thing. Okay, fine. They want them to come for a 5-day visit over Christmas break, not 24-25, and I cannot trust that this woman will not come over. Ben still gets incredibly anxious with her. Yes, he is in therapy. My in-laws refuse to tell her that she cannot come over because they say they do not want to be put in the middle and that it's making them choose between their grands. I reached out to my ex, who said that since she isn't coming over for long he's not stopping it. He also said that there is nothing in the order that she can't be around, and as his wife and mom of their sibling there's no reason that she should have to tiptoe around. He was incredibly dismissive, and I went nuclear on him. I told him that I have been letting him see them whenever despite only having 2 weekends a month, that he was married to a sociopathic zealot, and that if she continued to come around I would go back to court and ask for supervised visits and a restraining order against her. He hung up. Then I asked the kids what they wanted. Come to find out the woman has been coming around a lot. Amy said their grandparents asked them not to say anything to not upset me. I told my daughter that as an adult she can go but that her brothers would not be. Ben's look of relief broke my heart. Amy said and she felt weird when Step showed up. Tom said he's Ben called XMIL, told her that the children not be coming back until they chose to. I said they were welcome to come over to see them. I said they were so wrong to ask the kids to keep secrets. They called my ex, who berated me for punishing his parents. Stepmom sent me a text saying I was unfair. I think I'm right, but everyone else thinks I'm TAMI. Stories number 29. Am I the asshole for my reaction to my wife giving our twin sons true crime related names? My wife has a slightly irritating true crime hobby. It's one of those hobbies we keep separate from our relationship for the most part. She's normal about it and knows when to bring it up. I'm only reminded of it when she's around another aficionado. We had twins earlier this year. There were some negotiations about the names. I know at the end of the day, she's the one doing the hard work and has the final say, but she was inclined to eccentric, potentially life-ruining names that I had to talk her out of. One day she came to me with 2 surprisingly ordinary names and named separately. No one would bat an eye at either one. In fact, no one batted an eye until recently. We were visiting family and she was showing off the kids when my sister-in-law brother's wife took me aside and said, "Are you serious? You named your twins after them?" I had no idea. I hadn't made the connection until that moment. When I got home, I confronted her and demanded we change the names. She said it was just coincidence and that maybe subconsciously, she paired the names, but the names are common. And changing them would be a hassle and draw even more attention to it. In the first place, I said we can simply explain we hadn't made the connection at the time and decided to change it as soon as we realized, after all, my sister-in-law already said something. She won't budge and I find it concerning. Am I wrong? Edit, the names are Dylan and Eric. Stories number 30. Update, would I be the a-hole if I don't tell my wife that her best friend tried to kiss me? I decided to tell my wife everything. I thought about it a lot and decided that I should tell her everything instead of hiding it. TLDR, my wife's best friend showed up at my place. She was very drunk. I helped her, but she was so drunk she kissed me, but she couldn't even walk properly, so I dropped her off. I told my wife everything except that her friend kissed me. So after a lot of thinking and finding a way to get past all this, I decided to tell my wife. When I told my wife everything, she was pissed, angry like never before. She asked me why did I hide it from her, why I didn't tell her. I said I was scared. I hoped that I could hide it all and I didn't want you to lose your lifelong friend over a mistake, but then I realized that if I continue to hide the truth from you I might end up losing you and I don't want to lose you. My wife asked me if I ever cheated on her. I said I never cheated and never will. She started crying and said how can I betray her when she trusted me so much. I hugged her and said I never betrayed her and will never betray her. I am coming clean cause I don't want to lose you. I was as shocked as you are right now when she kissed me. My wife, after she stopped crying, said that I am not allowed to talk to any of her friends and I am to stay away from other women except our family members. My wife also asked me to block L. When I asked her what she will do, she said it's between her and L and I don't have to worry about it. She demanded open phone policy and complete transparency from me. I agreed. She said if I ever try to hide anything from her no matter what it is she will leave me. I agreed cause I don't ever want to hide anything from her. I don't know what happened and what both of them talked about and my wife wouldn't tell me either. All she says is, none of my business. She's still super pissed at me and I try my best to make her happy and ended up doing embarrassing private stuff for her which I never was and still uncomfortable to do so, but at least my wife is happy. I do not know what else I could have done, but I tried my best and gave it all. I came clean, told her everything, did everything she asked from me and tried my best to please her. She's still angry but at least she is with me and isn't leaving me unless I make another stupid ass mistake. Stories number 31. Am I the asshole here for refusing to go on a family trip unless they disinvite my nephew's friend? I 43 am really close to my family, consisting of my siblings, their spouses, their kids, and my parents. Every year we go on a vacation this time of year for 2 weeks, and come back right before Christmas. We are supposed to leave a week from today. I am the divorced, single, sole parent to my daughter 15F. She jokingly calls herself a nerd. She's weird, she's quirky, she likes anime and video games and Star Wars, the whole stereotypical nerd thing. She does get bullied at school, but since leaving middle school and growing up a little more she started taking it better, and mostly it stopped. This one boy, who I will call Jeff 16M, presumably and is coincidentally my nephew's, who is also sort of an best friend, is an absolute nightmare. I've talked to the school, we've had meetings with his parents, she's switched around classes extensively. But he still goes out of his way to pick on Emily. She has told me herself that she can deal with name calling, but it doesn't stop there. He pulls her hair, rips her clothes, destroys her things. Like, this kid is a full-fledged nightmare. They even got into a fist fight that they were both suspended for last year because he stole her backpack and put it into a full toilet in the boys' bathroom. When I was discussing plans with my sister, she brought up needing to buy Jeff a winter coat. When I realized he was going on the trip, I actually almost lost it. I told her admittedly without thinking that we weren't going, and she began begging me, talking about tradition and family and blah blah. I said no, I'll eat my portion of the cost. But we are not going. After a longer conversation, I said I'll go if they disinvite Jeff. We are well off and we are lucky to have grown up in a financially stable home with parents who are attentive and supportive, and for our kids to have done the same. Jeff was not that lucky. He lives in a really unstable environment both financially and emotionally. This was apparent to me from the meetings with his parents. As his father did not care and his mother blamed my daughter for being evil, and these were multiple, separate meetings. This is awful, and I'm sorry that Jeff or any child has to go through that, but I told my sister that my position still stands. The conversation went back and forth, mostly just her throwing excuses. Jeff has divorced parents, he grew up differently than us, maybe it's just a crush so on and so forth. When I reminded her of the fight, she said I know, but Jeff needs this. She mentioned how he needed a break from his toxic home life, and I respect that. But why does that mean I have to put my daughter in a house with her tormentor for 2 weeks? I told her I wasn't changing my mind and went home. Now there is pure chaos. My family is split, my parents are begging me to go, I'm getting texts near constantly. My daughter told me she's not going if Jeff is going. She had a full-blown panic attack over it. Maybe I'm looking for validation. Or maybe I really need a wake-up call and I'm just a selfish asshole. Original post here. TLDR, Jeff is not going on the trip, and per my daughter's request, we're still going. Hi, everyone, I hope you're good. I have an update/resolution that I figured I'd share, though truth be told it's a bit anticlimactic. Before I start, I wanted to say thank you for anyone who put in their 2 cents. I appreciate all of the comments, though I got overwhelmed with attention very quickly. I'm sorry if any questions remained unanswered. There were a lot of comments. I am still trying to maintain some anonymity, but I am happy to answer any questions that don't impede on that. Night before last, my 3 siblings, their spouses, and my parents all gathered at my sister's house to talk this through. I, very immaturely, sort of walked in with a mild attitude. I knew I wasn't going to change my mind. I felt like this was a waste of time, but my daughter keeps expressing to me how badly she wants to go on the trip, so I went. It started off with my sister and my mom crying and just asking me to go, but that got shut down really fast by pretty much everyone else. My sister expressed that she just felt so bad for Jeff again. He's lower class with a mother who treats him like a baby and a father that doesn't care. She mentioned that Jeff and Emily have been polite to each other in the presence of family, and figured they were getting over their issues. I did find out that the waiver he was on extended to his tuition, despite being told that it was for his uniforms and school supplies, so my apologies on an incorrect comment I made. Regardless, she was trying to convince me and my entire family to allow Jeff to come. I really do get it, and I am a person who can experience empathy, sometimes to a fault, but for the millionth time. My empathy towards Jeff and his situation does not overpower my need to protect my daughter as her only parent. It is literally my duty to make sure she is safe, and this is not safe. Thanks to a comment, I did say my daughter does not feel safe around Jeff, to which my brother-in-law, the sister in question's husband, replied, well, that settles it. The only adult who wanted Jeff to go was my sister. The only people who wanted me to compromise and go and ignore Jeff were my mother and sister-in-law. Everyone else was adamant that Jeff did not go. No one knew he was invited, and it wasn't until I sent in the group chat that I would not be attending because of Jeff's presence that anyone, including my sister's husband, knew Jeff was going. My father, who is actually a therapist, has been ridiculously supportive through this whole thing. He explained his reasonings for not wanting Jeff there besides the obvious. Most notably, and as many others, including myself, have pointed out, he started bringing up the subject of SA. My nephew mentioned to him that Jeff does like Emily. And if his mindset is as dysfunctional as we are led to believe, he's not currently capable of expressing that to Emily in a healthy way, which could lead to him attempting to SA her. Note, my sister tried to "I told you so" me about the crush, but I literally laughed at her. I really honestly don't care if he has a crush on my daughter. He's so awful to her. She takes it like a champ, she holds her head up high, and I'm so proud of her for that. But that doesn't change the fact that Jeff has been so sincerely awful to her that it makes me sick. It was ultimately decided that Jeff was not going. Thanks to another comment I saw, I did tell her that she was doing a great thing by trying to help this boy, but her niece came before him in this situation. I brought up that Jeff might retaliate against Emily again, thanks to another comment for being disinvited, so we did come up with a plan. Sort of. My nephew had to tell him at school the next day that Jeff was no longer invited because he didn't want him and Emily to get into a fight. I thought that was a dumb plan, I'm not going to lie, but as long as the blame was off of Emily I didn't care. We left for the night, both Emily and I hugged my sister. She apologized. It was generally okay. I'm still frustrated with her for trying to be this boy's savior at the risk of my daughter, and we have yet to have that conversation. But I'm sure it will come with time. My mother told Emily that she was sorry for seemingly wanting to subject her to Jeff, and she didn't mean to come off that way, she simply wanted us to come. I am still frustrated with my mom, but again, a conversation to come with time. I told my daughter not to get her hopes up, because part of me still didn't believe that Jeff was really not going to go, but we proceeded with cautious optimism. In the meantime, I spoke with my lawyer friend who did advise me not to go on the trip if Jeff was going, and not to speak to him or his parents directly. No problem there. I had resigned to not going and I had no interest in talking to anyone. Additionally, my sister's husband and I had a long talk about how he was really disappointed in her for this. That's not my business, but I was happy that he was still as fiercely protective of my daughter as I always thought he was. I have to give my nephew props, because he took the news well. Although he was disappointed, he understands that what Jeff does is wrong, but I'm still not really sure why he puts up with it. Besides that, he's a teenager who doesn't want to lose his friend. So, this leads us to last night. Emily shows me a message from my nephew that just says, "So Jeff backed out LMAO," and that's it. Get this. Jeff didn't know that Emily was going. My nephew went to tell him what was up and he got as far as saying Emily is going to be there before Jeff backed out. I spoke to my nephew who said Jeff just got weird and said he couldn't go, and they left it at that. Jeff seemed disappointed, and I do feel sorry for him, but again. My daughter comes first to me. My brother-in-law only sent me laughing emojis. Initially I was still not sure if I'd go because a lot of comments suggested I should not go on principle. With that being said, my daughter said she'd rather go on this trip, even after I tried to suggest we do something else, so now we're going. Yay. That's really it. Sorry it's so long, and I wish it was more exciting, but it is not. I tried to put emphasis on the conversation with my family because that was the important part, but even then we were just standing around my sister's kitchen talking, no big confrontation or anything. Regardless, have a good day and a happy holiday season. Thank you for reading and for all the advice, I do appreciate it. Stories number 32. Am I the asshole here for laughing in my mother's face when she said my stepsister planned my 18th birthday? A little background: my mom and dad separated when I was 6 and each went their separate ways. Of course, they had joint custody of me, but they both started new families when I was 9. My mom married a man, let's call him Robert, who already had a daughter, let's call her Kira, who was 2 years older than me. My dad got engaged when I was 8 to a wonderful woman, let's call her Layla, who he married when I was 12. My relationship with Layla is beautiful. She has truly been a mother to me. She basically helped my dad raise me. She takes an interest in my life, she comforts me, she advises me. We have common interests and we do many activities together. She and I recently talked about the possibility of having her legally adopt me as soon as I come of age. Doing so now would be a bit messy legally because of my parents' joint custody, because, for me, she is my real mother and I want it to be official. My relationship with my bio mother, on the other hand, is almost non-existent. Even though I was forced to spend specific days with her, we never managed to bond because she spent all her time giving attention and affection to Kira, who already have her own mother. Even when she tried to involve me in some activity, she always included Kira and we had to do only what Kira liked. At a certain point I started to decline her invitations and often asked if I could avoid going to her on the set days because I was almost always ignored or left aside and I preferred to stay at home with my father and Layla. My father always tried to understand me, but he also had to honor the rules set by the judge. When I got more mature, he admitted that he was afraid that my mother might make some mean move in court if he agreed to not let me go to her on the appointed days. Yeah, this is something my mother would do. After knowing this, I understood my father's reasons and I absolutely don't want to put him in trouble, so I didn't make such requests anymore and I respected my schedule. Now let's get to the point. In 2 weeks I will finally turn 18. I was lucky because my birthday falls on the days I have to stay with my dad, so he, Layla and I started planning my birthday a month ago. It will be nothing too crazy. Just a party with family and friends at my favorite pizza place, a casual night where I just want to have fun with the people I care about and do what I like. The place also has karaoke and I love singing, of course. After booking and setting everything up, we sent out the invitations and this extended to my mother as well. Honestly, I didn't really want her there, but then I thought that this would actually be the last time I was forced to be involved with her because, once I turn 18 I won't be forced to follow the judge's rules anymore. So we sent out the invitations 2 days ago and we already had almost all the answers, so we could organize the precise number to send to the pizza place. The only thing missing was my mother, who saw the text and did not respond. I told my father that I would not insist, and if she did not respond, then it meant she did not want to come and I was fine with that. I think my father was also a little relieved by the idea, even if he didn't say it openly, but I could see it on his face. Anyway, the drama started this afternoon. My mother called me, very angry, accusing me of being childish and that I shouldn't have planned anything without telling her first. This left me a little confused and I reminded her that I always planned all my birthdays with Dad and Layla. Most of the time she didn't even remember. So complaining now was quite hypocritical. This made her even angrier and started attacking me because Kira had been crying ever since I sent the invitation to my mother because she had already planned a whole birthday party for me. And I was really speechless because the relationship between me and Kira is zero. She is the classic spoiled brat who always wants to be the center of attention, and my mother has always supported this behavior of hers, making it worse, and clearly, she and I have never gotten along. I just didn't understand why the hell Kira wanted to organize a birthday party for me. It didn't make sense. I asked her why she did it and especially why she did it without telling me. I mean, she didn't really think I wouldn't make any plans for my 18th birthday, right? It was ridiculous. My mother said it was supposed to be a surprise, and since I didn't tell her about my plans, she thought I didn't want to do anything for my birthday, and I mean she could have asked. No. No. But here comes the worst part, and, I admit, the one that made me lose my cool. My mother started listing all the things Kira had prepared for my party, maybe to rub in my face what I would have missed, and they were all Kira's favorite activities. Things that I didn't like. She had booked a fish restaurant for lunch, and I don't eat fish, not because of some whim but because it make me feel sick. Just smelling fish makes me feel nauseous. I'm not allergic, I had it checked. My body simply rejects it. She also booked an afternoon activity at a ranch near the city where my mother now live, where you can ride horses, and well, I don't like it. I have nothing against horses in particular, but the idea of riding one or getting really close to an animal that big scares me. Then she thought about going back to my mom's house for a backyard barbecue for dinner, and I just don't want to do that because I don't want to spend more time with my mom than I have to. My mother also said they had already sent out invitations to everyone, and at that point I was really speechless, but I had to ask her who she had sent them to. Because my friends, my dad and his family hadn't received anything. It turns out that at the party was mostly invited to Robert's family, my mom's family, and Kira's friends. I mean, it was basically a party organized by Kira for herself, but under the pretext that it was for my birthday. So I didn't hold back anymore. I laughed in my mother's face and hung up the phone. It was all too ridiculous to be true. Come on. My dad came to me a little while ago, saying that my mom called him mad because I laughed in her face when she told me about the party they had organized for me, and he was very upset about it. He was starting to say that, despite all the feelings I had for my mom. They were trying to do a nicer thing for once, but I stopped him right away and explained in details how the party had been organized, a detail that my mom apparently left out with him. His expression changed quickly. He just said, "I'm going to make a phone call," and I've been hearing him yelling at my mother for at least 20 minutes by now. Layla came to me after learning about the situation and said that as much as she could relate to me, I was a little rude to laugh in my mother's face and hang up without explaining. For her, I should have spoken out like an adult despite my feelings and sort things out in a civil and mature way. She wasn't angry. Just a bit disappointed about how I acted. As soon as she left, I thought about my actions, and maybe I was a little hasty, but I don't think talking to my mom about it would have helped, honestly. But maybe I could have handled it better. I'm starting to think I was a bit of an asshole in that moment. Update, 2 days later. Okay, I didn't think my post would get all this attention, well, but thank you all for the good wishes and words of comfort. I read all your comments and decided to follow some advice. First of all, I talked to Layla about my reaction to my mother. Layla raised me on the importance of communication and always pushing me to talk about my problems so I could solve them, so I see where her comment about my behavior came from and I understand it. But I also gave her my point of view, telling her that the situation my mother was explaining was too absurd, and laughing is the only natural instinct that came to me. While my mother was talking, at some point I thought, is it a joke? Or some sort of bad prank? Is she making this all up? Because her bullshits was absolutely ridiculous. Layla said she understood me, and as many of you have told me, she just wanted me to understand that there will be situations in my life where I can't just laugh and hang up the phone, and she was just worried about my reaction anyway. We managed to clear the matter between us and I'm happy. I also talked to my dad about the phone call he had with my mom. Apparently, my mom had an excuse for everything. She said that Kira just wanted to do a nice sisterly gesture on my big day. That she wanted to share her hobby, riding horses, with me, and that she never thought my fish problem was a real problem but just a whim, and the restaurant they had booked had made the best fish around, and that last one is a lie because, when I was little, I threw up a couple of times in front of my mom just because we went somewhere that smelled strongly of fish, so she know very well it's a real issue for me. My dad retorted that nothing they had prepared had been done for me, that Kira had clearly planned the party for herself, and what kind of party was it for me if none of my important people were there? My mother didn't respond to this. She just started ranting that I was ungrateful and spoiled, so my father told her to go to hell and hung up the phone. After hearing this, I decided to follow another piece of advice you gave me and wrote a message to my mother. This time I decided to be mature and wrote the message in the most polite way possible. I apologized for laughing, but what she was saying was too ridiculous, so it was the only possible reaction from my side. I reminded her that she never put any effort into building a relationship with me. That she doesn't know me at all and has never cared about getting to know me, and since the birthday party Kira organized only had things that Kira liked, they could enjoy it together with their family and friends. I also told her that her invitation to my pizza party was withdrawn and she shouldn't bother showing up since she had already made it clear with the last phone call what her priorities were, and now I was going to do it too. And she was absolutely not on my priority list. I already have Layla as a mother and I can't be more happy with her. I concluded by wishing her well with her new family and asked her not to contact me again. She read the message but didn't respond, and I'm fine with that. If she were to respond, I'm sure it would just be more complaints about me being ungrateful and spoiled, because I know that talking to her is useless. She would not understand or pretend not to understand. But clarifying things once and for all has put an end to our situation. At least on my side I had a sort of closure, and I thank you all for that. I probably would have given up and ended contact with her after my 18th without said anything, but your comments helped me understand that a firm end was necessary. For those who asked how my mom could throw me a surprise party when I wasn't with her, my dad asked her the same question along with asking her how she could think he wouldn't throw me an 18th birthday party. My dad took it a bit personally, lol, and she said they had planned for Robert to come get me the morning of my birthday. Explain the situation to Dad and Layla and then take me to Mom's house under some pretense. Honestly, I don't know how it would have worked. I would have flat out refused to go to my mother's if it wasn't our set days, no matter what excuse they would have made up. And most of all, I would never have left Layla and Dad to go to Mom's on my 18th birthday. It would have been one thing if my mother and I had a good relationship, but that was definitely not the case. In all of this, the only person I don't feel like blaming is Robert. We never had a close relationship, but he was always polite to me when we lived under the same roof. He even cleared out his study so I could have a permanent room in his house. When I went to my mother's, we didn't develop any stepdaughter-stepfather bond. But he always tried to be kind to me, so I don't blame him for any of this. It's likely that he really thinks the party is for me. We don't know each other well enough for him to know my tastes unless my mother told him, which I highly doubt she did. Luckily, I didn't leave anything of mine at my mother's house either. All my things are here at my father's house permanently. Usually, I would pack my suitcase when I went to my mother's with the things I needed for those days and then bring them back when I went back to my father's. I never felt safe leaving anything to her because Robert's family and Kira's friends came over often and I didn't want to leave anything of mine out in the open to strangers. Well, that's it for now. I hope my mom respects my wish to go no contact and doesn't bother me anymore. After that, I'd also like to bring up the adoption conversation with Layla after the holidays. She seemed really happy when we first talked about it. Thanks again everyone for your kind words and advice. Your insights have helped me better manage the situation. I can understand that I'm still a little immature, but I feel that this experience has helped me grow a little more and see the issue from other points of view. All the best for you, guys. Update. Since many people were asking for an update, here I am. My birthday was yesterday. We celebrated at the pizza place as planned and we had a lot of fun. Sorry for those who were hoping my mom would show up and make a scene, but luckily nothing like that happened. But I guess some drama happened at her house. A few days after I posted the first update, Robert called my dad. I wasn't there, so from now on I'll just say what my dad told me. My mom didn't tell Robert about our argument and the fact that I wasn't going to the party Kira organized. She just told him that the plans had changed and that Robert wouldn't have to pick me up on my birthday. Because my dad was going to drive me to my mom's house. I don't know what she hoped to achieve by lying like this, but my mother's mind works strangely. Robert didn't know it was all a lie until he picked up my mom's phone and read the last message I sent her. At that point, confused and realizing that something wasn't right, he decided to call my dad to find out what was going on and if he was really going to drive me to my mom's house. My father told him everything that had happened and why I had sent that message to my mother, also saying why I would not be attending the party and that no, he would not be accompanying me and that my mother had lied to him. Robert replied that he was sorry for how things turned out and that he really believed the party was for me. He had no idea that Kira had planned everything and had specifically chosen things that I would never do. He also said that he would take care of it and to say goodbye to me. A few hours later my mother called me, but I rejected the call and permanently blocked her number. I don't want to hear anything more about her and her dramas. I didn't know exactly what happened between her and Robert that made her call me again after days of silence and after I told her not to contact me anymore, but I could only guess. My mother doesn't work. She left her job after I was born and never went back. Robert is the only one who brings money into their house, so he was the only one who could have paid for everything Kira had planned for the party. I imagined that when he told my father he would take care of it, he meant that he would cancel everything or not pay for the party. This theory was confirmed just yesterday morning. I received greetings from my aunt and grandmother, like every year, and they also sent me a nice sum of money as a birthday present after the birthday message. My grandmother also added that she was sorry that my party was cancelled, but that she understood the reason after Robert explained it to her. So yes, Robert did cancel everything and he even told everyone why. This must have pissed my mom off a lot, I guess, lol. Anyway, my dad read my grandma's message and suggested if I wanted to invite her to the party we were having that night. I was hesitant because, as I wrote in a comment in the previous post, we don't have a close relationship at all, but then I thought that there would be nothing wrong with having her there. She is still my grandma, after all. And it's not like she's ever been mean to me, so I replied to the message and invited her and she accepted. It wasn't bad having her there either, to be honest. She even participated in karaoke with me and we had fun. We left the pizzeria late, so she slept at our house, and this morning she even made us breakfast. I don't know if our relationship will change after this, but for now I'm happy like this. It's nice to finally have a grandmother, even if I had to wait 18 years for this moment. Thanks again for your advice and words of support, and also for those who sent me private greetings the past few days. Sorry I didn't reply to everyone, but know that you all warmed my heart. Stories number 33. Am I the asshole for not telling my ex-wife about our son's talent show and then telling her it's not my fault she's fucking up her relationship with our kids? My ex-wife 40F and I 40M have 2 children together, Amy 12F and Noah 11M. We used to be civil, even though our breakup and divorce could be described as messy. It was for the best. We got along better than a lot of divorced parents I've known. We always shared custody of our children, and my ex-wife had another child soon after our marriage ended. My ex-wife remarried about 3 years after our divorce, and she and her husband have 3 children together, so my ex has 6 children, and I understand this can mean it's hard to give all the kids individual time, but our kids have felt increasingly like they matter less than their half-siblings. They have brought up the fact their half-siblings get 1:1 time with her, and not just when they're with me, but that they can also ask for time with just her or just their dad. But if they ask for time with just their mom, they are told she doesn't have time, or that they have a big family, and since they aren't always there, they should want time with everyone. There has also been trouble for them for introducing me and my ex as their parents and saying ex's husband is their stepdad. They also say their half-siblings are half-siblings, and my ex doesn't like it. She said her 3rd child doesn't say it, but she hasn't got a relationship with her dad, and our kids pointed that out, so it's different for her. My ex told them there should be no halves or step for stepdad, that they're all family. She throws the fact they live with me 50% of the time as a reason for them to not use it and to not want time alone with her, but she and her other kids are open when mom takes one to the arcade or trampoline park when Amy and Noah aren't there. I know Amy had this Mother's Day thing at her music class, and she asked her mom to come, and her mom brought the other girls so they could have a girls' day. Another time Amy wanted her mom to drive her to a show she was performing in, and her mom said they should make it a family thing, so she asked if I could take the day off work to do it. It was my parenting time, but since I was working and Amy wanted her mom, I said it was fine if she asked her, and I said of course her mom wasn't happy about it, but Amy said she hadn't wanted a family thing. Noah has invited his mom to take part in his cooking classes, and she's always wanting to bring her husband or some of the other kids. He also wanted a celebratory milkshake with her when he got a good grade, even though his school fucked up and didn't have his aide there for a test. He has dyslexia and requires an aide with him, but she insisted it couldn't be 1:1. There are multiple examples of this. And we're at the point where the kids would love to live with me more, but they have to be 16 at minimum for a judge to agree to listen to their wishes. Noah had a talent show at school last week, and it was my parenting time, but we both get notified when something is going on. Noah decided not to say anything to his mom or invite her. She found out about it because he won and it was posted on social media. She called to complain and I had to take over because she was really upsetting Noah. She told me I should have told her, and I said I didn't have to, that we both get notified and it's on us as individuals to keep up to date on that kind of activity. She accused me of coming between her and the kids, and I told her it's not my fault she's fucking up her relationship with them by denying them 1:1 time with just her. She told me it wasn't fair and it's easier for me because I only have Amy and Noah. I brought up the fact she has time for her other kids and that they can ask for her to be alone in supporting them, and she will find a babysitter or have her husband stay with the kids, but she can't be bothered to do it for our kids. She called me an ass and accused me of coming between them. Stories number 34. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my mentally ill hoarder in-laws stay at my house indefinitely? Preface. My in-laws are in their 60s, hoarders, unhealthy people, not elderly. Saying, well, this is what happens when you get to be our age. No, it doesn't. Eat healthy and take care of yourself. They don't cook, clean, their house is falling apart from neglect their own hygiene, they reek of urine, and have 2 cats who urinate and defecate all over the house. Their doctors have passively made comments about the smell. They don't ask for help or consider nursing homes. They seem to be there mentally, but are just gross. Incident 1. Winter of 2023. My FIL plus 350 pounds fell and he and my MIL could not get him back up. They called the fire department. FD saw the condition of the house. Called the health department and said they had 14 days or so to fix some of the issues around the house before they would be forced to leave. The Humane Society came and took their 2 cats away. I also know they just feed their cats leftovers from the food they get delivered. IMO, they should not have, the poor things. There is mold, cat defecation, rot, and I would bet human excitement all around the house. My wife said there were trash bags filled to the brim everywhere. They got the house taken care of just enough to meet code, and fell right back into it, and now it's worse. Phil recently beat cancer, but has some wounds/infections on his legs and they keep coming back. Not sure on the cause of the infections, but I am certain their hygiene and living environment is causing them to remain. Incident 2 today, and am I the asshole? Today, my Phil fell again and it was a repeat of 2023. FD called health department. The Humane Society took the 2 cats away. Again, they have done nothing to improve the house. I heard my MIL say it's only gotten worse over the phone when talking to my wife earlier tonight. The health department has marked it with red tape or a red flag or something where the house is not permitted for entry at this time, I think is what I heard. Phil's leg infections had maggots growing on them. Yes, maggots. He was delirious from the fall and is being admitted to the hospital for a few days. Sounds like a minor kidney injury or something. MIL has been discharged. She does not own a cell phone, and all of her belongings are back at the house, which I am not sure they can get in. My wife is on her way to get my MIL and bring her back to our house. I said no. My wife and I both work from home. We do have the room. My wife said she will sleep in the guest bedroom, which doubles as my wife's office. I feel like in a 14-year husband and wife relationship in a house that we own together, my feelings and opinions should be valid. And we should come to an agreement. My in-laws knew in 2023 they had to do something, and they didn't, and I do not want to be a shelter for that kind of behavior. Am I the asshole for telling my wife no, your MIL can't stay here? Stories number 35. Am I the asshole for saying to my parents' family shouldn't mean you get to always treat someone like shit and still benefit from the person? I 16M have one sister 15F. We were close before, not friends, but she was my sister and so I'd be there if she needed me and I wouldn't let anyone get away with bullying her, for example. But for the last 3 years it's been way different and I can't think of a single good thing about her now, at least not in how she treats me. It started with her telling me to shut up whenever I'd talk. It could be at dinner or when we were out with family. She'd get a real attitude about me talking and didn't care who heard her speak to me that way. Extended family could not believe it and our parents ignored her. Then she'd push me out of rooms, pull chairs out from under me, and one time she wanted me out of the house. Still don't know why, so she woke me up by slamming and breaking my bedroom door. Then she'd refuse to be seen in public with me and she'd say looking at me made her want to puke. She told our parents she would rather die than be seen with me, and if they wanted her to go somewhere with them they had to leave me at home. Around that same time she was pissed that I didn't get her a birthday gift. We always know when each other picked stuff out. I knew her interests better than our parents, so mine was always a good surprise, but I told them to pick it out on my behalf. She acted so offended. The insults keep getting worse and I'm just done. I don't do a thing for her anymore. My parents notice and they told me I shouldn't pull away so much from my sister and she might need me and I shouldn't say no. I told them not gonna happen and they said she's family. I said so and they said so. I need to get over the petty stuff. I called my grandpa and in front of my parents told him what was going on. He asked to talk to them and I could hear him yell even though they took the call off loudspeaker, and he mentioned how she almost cut my head open pulling a chair out from under me at a restaurant 2 months ago and refused to let me sit anywhere close to her. He said they needed to get on her case and leave me alone. My parents told me it was childish to involve grandpa like that and I told them they needed to hear from an adult. They mentioned family again and I said family shouldn't mean you always treat a person like shit and benefit from them. My parents said my understanding of family is poor because family are there for each other. They told me she's my little sister. She's only a year younger than me. Stories number 36. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my neighbor use my driveway after she's been parking in it without asking? So I 30F live in a suburban neighborhood with my husband 32M. We have a double driveway that fits both of our cars comfortably, and we've lived here for about 5 years. Our next door neighbor, let's call her Linda, moved in a year ago. She's an older woman in her late 50s who seems friendly on the surface but has started to cause some issues. It started a few months ago when I came home and found her car parked in my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake, so I knocked on her door to ask her to move it. She apologized, saying she had a guest over, and her driveway was full. I let it slide that time. But then it kept happening. I'd come home to find her car or sometimes her guests' cars in my driveway. I told her multiple times that it wasn't okay, but she'd just shrug it off and move the car when I asked, often saying things like, "It's not like you were using it right then." The final straw happened last week. My MIL, the one who isn't exactly my biggest fan, was visiting, and I specifically asked her to park in the driveway so she wouldn't block the street when we came home from running errands. Linda's car was there again. Mil was already in a bad mood, and she snidely remarked, "Wow. Even your neighbors walk all over you, I wonder why." I was furious. I knocked on Linda's door and told her that this was the last time she was parking in my driveway. She got defensive, saying I was being unreasonable since she only does it occasionally and that it's just a driveway, not a sacred space. Since then, she started giving me the cold shoulder, and I've noticed her glaring at me whenever I'm outside. My husband says I might have gone too far and should have just let it slide, especially since she's older and it's not worth the drama. Even my Mil shockingly agreed, saying that I should pick my battles. But I feel like it's my property, and I shouldn't have to keep asking someone not to use it without permission. At the same time, maybe I overreacted by confronting her so harshly. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let my neighbor park in my driveway and possibly escalating things? Update. My neighbor kept parking in my driveway, so I had her car towed. Hey everyone, I wanted to update you on my previous post about my neighbor Linda, late 50s, constantly parking in my driveway without asking. For those who didn't see the original post, I 30F live with my husband 32M in a suburban neighborhood with a double driveway. Over the past few months, Linda has repeatedly ignored my requests to stop parking in our driveway. Well, today things finally came to a head. I woke up early for an appointment only to find Linda's car parked in my driveway again, blocking me, and my husband had already left for work. So I knocked on her door and waited for about 15 minutes, but there was no answer. I even tried calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I was running late and completely fed up, so I called a towing company. They arrived quickly, and as they were hooking up her car, Linda stormed out of her house. Furious, she yelled at me and the tow truck driver, calling me petty and claiming I could have just waited a bit longer or left a note. I calmly reminded her that I'd asked her multiple times to stop parking in my driveway, but she wasn't having it. She ended up paying the towing fee, and now she's absolutely livid. She's been telling other neighbors that I'm a vindictive control freak, and a couple of them have hinted that I might have gone too far. Even my husband thinks I could have handled it differently and avoided escalating things. And, of course, my Mil, who was visiting today, had to chime in with one of her usual subtle digs. As we were sitting down for lunch, she casually remarked, "Some people just can't manage conflict like adults." I'm pretty sure she wasn't talking about Linda. So now, Linda glares at me every time she sees me. My husband is annoyed about the neighborhood drama, and my Mil is treating this like it's my personal failure. I still think I was justified, but I'll admit the fallout is a lot to deal with. Just wanted to keep you all updated. Thanks for all the advice on the last post. Stories number 37. Am I, 26F, overreacting about my fiancé's, 27M, behavior with a female friend? Okay, so for context, my fiancé and I are getting married in 2 months, and we've been friends with this girl who joined his frisbee team for about 3 or 4 months. We were all out with the team for an end-of-season party, and my fiancé was paying this girl a lot of special attention, sitting as far away from me at the table to talk to her and one other person. At one point, he got up to grab him and her a water but didn't check in with me at all. That's fine, I can get my own water, but definitely out of character when we all got up to go. My fiancé, who is crazy tall, told her his coat was the perfect size for the two of them. He's constant pointing out how short and tiny she is. He proceeds to open his coat and invite her inside with him, where he closes it and wraps her up. All of our friends stop talking and stare at me before laughing awkwardly when he lets her out. Flash forward to later that evening at one of the teammates' house. He puts her shoes inside his and makes another joke about how cute and small she is. Flash forward again to the bar we all go to. He buys her drink and opens his own tab instead of putting his drink on mine, orders for her, and repeatedly asks her if he can carry her stuff. She does have a sprained thumb, but she says she's fine. Multiple times at the end of the night, he invites her back to our house to crash because her Uber home was going to be way too expensive that time of night, but doesn't ask me first. We end up having 2 other people stay too. The next morning, he goes out to breakfast with her and the other 2 teammates but doesn't come back until 11:30. That would be fine, but we were supposed to be at my best friend's son's birthday party at 10. After all of this, he acts like nothing is wrong and has since told me that I'm too jealous, but he's also joining a soccer team now with her and 2 of our other friends. It kind of feels like he has a crush on her, but I don't know if I'm overreacting or how I should bring it up without making it seem accusatory. Stories number 38. Am I overreacting for telling my dad he's destroying our family to please his new wife? I 25M have been watching my younger sibling teens 11 to 17 years struggle ever since our dad 45M married his new wife Diana last spring. The background here is crucial, after our mom passed away 3 years ago from cancer, I moved back home to help Dad with the kids while working remotely. Things were going okay until Diana entered the picture. Diana has 2 kids of her own who live with their dad full-time, and she seems determined to create her perfect new family with just her and Dad. Since their marriage, she's convinced Dad to basically abandon his responsibilities to us. He sold our childhood home where I was helping care for my siblings and moved into Diana's condo across town, saying the kids could visit on weekends. My siblings now live with me in a cramped apartment because they didn't want to leave their school district. The breaking point came last week during my youngest sister's dance recital. Dad had promised to come, but texted 30 minutes before it started saying Diana had planned a surprise date night and they couldn't make it. My sister was devastated when I called him later that night. Diana answered his phone and said they were working on building their marriage and that the kids need to understand that their father deserves happiness too. I lost it. I told Dad that he's going to wake up one day and realize he threw away his relationship with his children to please a woman who clearly resents us. I said Mom would be heartbroken to see him choosing his new wife over the kids she loved more than anything. Dad exploded, saying I was being manipulative by bringing Mom into this and that we're all just jealous of Diana. He said we need to grow up and accept change. I responded that the only one who needs to grow up is him, that he's acting like a lovesick teenager instead of a father of 4. I told him he'll regret throwing away his real family for Diana's fantasy of a fresh start without his baggage. Yes, she's actually referred to us this way. He hung up on me, and Diana has been posting passive-aggressive Facebook statuses about toxic adult children ever since. My older friends say I went too far bringing up Mom, but my siblings are grateful someone finally stood up to him. Am I overreacting for giving him this reality check? Edit. For additional context, Dad still pays the bills for my siblings' basic needs and sends money monthly, but the emotional abandonment is what's really hurting them. His new wife has made it clear she thinks my siblings are old enough to understand that Dad needs to focus on his new marriage also. This isn't about the money. I make enough to support us if needed. It's about watching my siblings feel uncomfortable by their only surviving parent. Many are saying to report my father, but honestly I think that'd make this situation worse. However, I will confront him and give him a chance to make this right, starting with spending more time with my siblings. I don't know if I can bear to be around him right now myself. Stories number 39. My fiancé stole literally my Christmas present idea. How do I proceed? M24F23. My fiancé M24 and I F23 went Christmas shopping together tonight. I gave his family gifts last year, so I knew I had to / wanted to get something for them this year as well. I love gift giving. I spend so much time and effort picking out the perfect gift for someone. Rarely go off of lists because I want something original that I know they'd love or use. Find deals so I can get them high quality things or multiple gifts. I've been planning my Christmas list of gifts for over a month and wanted to finish buying everything tonight. My fiancé hasn't even started shopping. He went with me today to get the gifts for his family from me and the rest of the gifts for mine. I told him ahead of time I wanted to get his parents both nice drinking glasses since we often drink together at family get-togethers. I picked out some wine glasses for his mom, and went to look at whiskey glasses for his dad once we're there. He picks up the 2 sets that I'm looking at and decides he's getting one himself as a gift for his dad. I tell him he can't just steal my idea, mind you, my only, and thought-out idea. He says we'll just both get him that. I said no, we can't give him the same thing, I won't even be there when it's opened. This is my idea and it's unfair of him to steal it. He says I cannot stop him from buying glasses for his own dad. Frustrated, I walk away to look at some other gifts I need to get, as I don't want to bicker in public over this, and I felt myself heating up when I get back. I look in his hand. He had put down the rest of the stuff he was looking at. Rushed to the checkout and purchased the exact set I had decided on. By the time I got back he insists he did nothing wrong. I am in disbelief, disappointed, hurt and pissed off all in one. My friend said I should steal it back and wrap it and bring it over as my gift. I am tempted since he's not even willing to hear me out. I don't know how to proceed, or if I'm overreacting. I also can't think of any other gift ideas. Any advice is appreciated. Stories number 40. I've grown up being told not to make a fuss when I'm in pain, then when something turns out to be wrong, I'm too stoic. I've always had quite a high pain tolerance. I'm naturally accident prone and I ride horses professionally, including breaking in or restarting horses. Since I was a child, I've grown up being told not to make a fuss about things, to get over it, etc. I also spent my childhood falling off ponies, but never that seriously. I think my worst falls then included 1 concussion and a bruised tailbone. In my adult life, I've had 2 broken noses, at least 2 other concussions, broken ribs, a broken ankle, some unknown damage to my hip, but it was almost definitely at least a fracture and broken fingers. When I've come home covered in blood or limping etc., I immediately get asked by my parents and especially my mom how I'm still okay and how on earth am I still functioning etc., but I broke my ankle almost exactly a year ago, drove home. Got a lift to A&E and then walked around hospital for about 5 hours. My mum clearly didn't think it was necessary to drive me there because I didn't seem to be in too much pain but obviously felt bad and apologized when I was told that it is broken. The doctor who saw my x-ray completely changed in his demeanor after looking at it and I had 3 doctors asking how on earth I wasn't in more pain and how did I seem to be okay. Is this a typical experience? Don't make a fuss, just be quiet. Why didn't you say it was hurting? Stories number 41. Am I the asshole here for crying because I don't want for Christmas? My 16F family decided to host a little get-together where we call everyone gives, and everything is happy because my sister and her husband are in the military, and they're about to get deported to a different country. I want an MP3 player. I don't want to know how to use my phone to listen to music because I want to get off my phone more than like enjoy life more than being on a screen all day. The MP3 player that I wanted was a light pink one, and that's what I asked for my grandparents and I started looking on Amazon for the one that I wanted. And they said that they would get that one for me. My grandparents were about to buy them, but then my aunt stepped in and said, "Hold on, I can buy it for her." My grandparents agreed to let her buy it for me because it was $22, and they were already buying me a $65 Converse. So come the day we joined up and then we're opening the gifts and everyone got a bunch of really cool stuff. My sister, she got a stuffed animal. My grandmother got a jewelry box. So I'm opening my gift for my aunt thinking I'm gonna have a pink MP3 player. I opened it in a dark black one, which I don't really care about the color it has the thing used, but then I looked at it and it wouldn't turn on, and I asked my aunt, "Hey, why wouldn't it turn on? Doesn't need to be charged." She told me that it was her MP3 players from when she was in high school. Then she dropped this. Well, I didn't know why you would want to. Be honest, I don't think anyone your age has those. I didn't think you were going to listen to music on it, so I just gave you my one. I know it doesn't work anymore. I just broke down crying because I wanted one thing for Christmas, an MP3 player that I could listen to music on. So I'm just like sitting on the floor crying, and then I walk to my room and cry. My aunt says, she's being so ungrateful. I couldn't get her anything. My uncle knocks on the door of my bedroom and says, "Hey, do you want to go to Target to get the one that you want?" So we go to Target, and I'm looking for the MP3 player and I couldn't find one, so I walked up to the worker and asked him if they even carried MP3 players. He told me no, so my uncle took me to a different Target. And they had one in stock, and it was a bright pink one. I was so happy. I've never been happier in my life. I went home and just downloaded so much music it wasn't even funny. Stories number 42. Am I the asshole for selecting the in-flight child's meal my vegan husband paid for? Hi all. My husband and I are vegan. I am about 2 years in, whereas he's at about 8. He purchased an international flight to see his family for himself, me, and my daughter 5 years old. Today I was making sure that we had our vegan meals for tomorrow's flight in place, but the app wasn't working, so I had to call. I requested for my 5-year-old to get a child's meal as she is not vegan. Her father and I have split custody, so her diet is not set and a very picky eater. Upon hearing the call end, he informed me that next time I can pay for her flight because he doesn't want to pay for a non-vegan meal, which would be fair if it was not complimentary and or a separate cost. I am completely down to pay for all of our tickets for the next flight in the spirit of fairness. But I don't understand why her getting a meal she would be much more likely to eat. She's outright refused past in-flight meals, and this is a long flight is so horrible to him that he can't even deal with paying for her ticket as a whole. Am I the asshole for selecting a non-vegan meal for my 5-year-old on a flight he paid for? Stories number 43. Am I the asshole for not including the entire family in a quilt I made for my mother? So, a little while ago, it was my mother's birthday. I like to sew, so I thought it would be a good idea to make her a quilt. I had the idea to make some of the squares family photos, so I got some family pictures printed out onto fabric, and added them in the quilt. It had me, my siblings, and my parents when I gave the quilt to my mother. She seemed happy at first. Before she looked at all the photos she looked disappointed, and when I questioned why, she said that she was upset that I didn't have any photos including the dog. Now, as a bit of a side note, I have always had a phobia of dogs, which people never really got about me. We do have a dog in the house, but I choose to not acknowledge it or be around it. My mother knows very well my fear of them, but she treats this dog like it's her own son. She cooks it meals every day, gets it food at McDonald's, gives it many presents during Christmas, and practically every framed photo in the house is of the dog rather than anyone else. Essentially, she treats it less like it is a dog, and more like it is a human child, even calling it her youngest son. Since I don't like the family dog, for reasons I won't dive into here, I chose to not incorporate it into the quilt. Also, since I don't have any photos of it on my phone anyways, and now, my mother seems to really dislike the gift. I asked her if she doesn't like the quilt, and she just sighed and said that it was cruel of me to not include her youngest in the quilt. I feel bad since I am moving away soon. I wanted to give her a nice handmade gift, since I've never done that before, but she seems so disappointed with it. I thought the photos I picked out were nice, some were recent, but most of them were from many years ago, before they even got the dog. My dad is telling me that it is perfectly fine that I didn't include the dog, and that the quilt is still very nice, but my brother seems angry with me, saying that I can't just leave out family members in a family-themed quilt. It's been around a week since that happened, and my mom has never once used or even touched the quilt. I looked and found that she put it under her bed. I feel sad, but also guilty. I feel like a major jerk, since I just wanted to make her happy. My mother has also been a bit more distant with me as well, so I'm scared that our relationship will be affected by this. Update, 12 hours later. Edit. I feel like I should clarify some things. Looking through the replies, I see most people saying that I am the People seem to think that I deliberately left out the dog to upset my mother, and that I should have been more mindful of her feelings since this is a gift for her. She's had the dog for around 6 years now, and has mentioned quite a few times that she values dog lives over human children's lives. She also mentioned that in the case of a house fire, she would save the dog first, then go back in to save her children. I've had this dog phobia since I was a kid, and it hasn't gotten better since the dog has been in the house. I'm not allowed to go to therapy either, so I was left with no resources to help me with this fear. It was especially bad since whenever I leave my room, my mother or brother would try to get the dog to chase and bark at me. Since they think it's funny, they still do that to this day. But, back to the quilt situation, my mother has framed photos all around the house of her dog. She has maybe 2 photos of her human children, but around 12 photos of the dog when making the quilt. Yes, I did purposely exclude the dog. I did this partly because I felt that there was already enough photos of the dog in the house, and partly because I wanted to give her something to remind her of her human children. The vast majority of the photos I chose were ones taken when me and my siblings were young children, so before they even got the dog. And no, I hate that I have to even say this, I don't harm dogs or wish harm upon dogs like some of you seem to think. Edit 2. Shortly after I woke up this morning, I went to try and grab the quilt from under the bed in order to take some photos of it, but I couldn't find it. I asked my dad if he knew where it was, but he was just as clueless as me. We searched a lot of the house, but couldn't find it. I'll update again if I find out what happened to it. Edit 3. I went outside and checked the trash bin. I found the quilt there slightly hidden under some other trash. I took it out of the trash, and tried to clean it up the best I could. It's now hidden in my room. I'm not really sure what to do with it now. Stories number 44. Am I the asshole here for cutting off my best friend after she kept quiet about her mom and my boyfriend? We grew up together in same neighborhoods and her parents had a big age gap. Her father was also very abusive and they were kind of relieved when he died. I have always been there for her whenever she had issues. I 24F started dating my BF in college 5 years ago. We still live with our parents and didn't have place for intimacy. Her house we could meet and we often went there to get together. Her mom was fine with it and even encouraged us. I never imagined her to backstab me like this. She and my BF have been cheating on me for years now and my friend knew about it. She said she just couldn't tell on her mom because she was so happy with him. Her mom had a traumatic past and her acting like that was result of it. She justified not telling me about it to my face. Now when I left her she is crying and trying to get my parents and friends to get me to talk to her. I can't tell my parents what happened but my friends think I am punishing her for no fault of her own and also that it's understandable what her mom did. Am I the asshole for cutting her off? Stories number 45. Am I the asshole for walking out of my mom's house after she forced my autistic son to eat food he hates? I'm a single dad, 32M, to my 17-year-old son, Ronnie. He's autistic and has some pretty specific food sensitivities. It's not just that he doesn't like certain foods, some textures are genuinely overwhelming for him. Eggplant, asparagus, apples, and Brussels sprouts are on his list of foods he just can't handle, and I've always respected that. My mom, on the other hand, doesn't. She's never really taken the time to understand Ronnie's needs and insists that he's just being picky or difficult. I've tried to explain it to her many times, but she doesn't seem to take it seriously. Recently, she invited us over for dinner. She said it would be a nice family evening, and I figured we'd give it a shot. When we got there, I immediately noticed that most of the dishes she'd prepared were things Ronnie struggles with. It felt intentional, like she was trying to prove a point. Ronnie was visibly uncomfortable but tried to stay polite. I could tell he was trying his best to handle the situation, but eventually, it became too much for him. He started tugging at his hair, something he does when he's overwhelmed. Instead of showing any understanding or compassion, my mom became upset with him for it. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I told her we were leaving and took Ronnie home. He was really upset and told me how embarrassed and humiliated he felt. It broke my heart. Since then, my mom has been flooding my phone with angry messages, accusing Ronnie of being ungrateful and me of spoiling him. She's also posted about the situation on Facebook, calling us both disrespectful and making it seem like she was just trying to help. Some family members think I should apologize to smooth things over. But I honestly don't see why I should. I feel like I did the right thing by putting Ronnie first, but with all the backlash, I'm starting to second-guess myself. Am I the asshole? Consensus: not the asshole. Update. Hey, everyone. First, I wanted to address a few comments I've seen on my original post. Some of you were confused about this account and thought it didn't fit me. That's because it isn't mine. It belongs to my niece. She barely uses Reddit and kindly let me use it since I'm not great with tech and didn't feel like setting up my own account just to share this. I didn't think this would get so much attention. I also saw some comments accusing me of enabling Ronnie's pickiness or saying I'm letting him eat an unhealthy diet. I want to clarify that Ronnie does eat healthy and has a balanced diet. He just has specific sensory sensitivities, like many autistic people do. Certain foods, like eggplant, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts, don't sit right with him because of their textures or tastes, not because he's picky. Forcing him to eat things that overwhelm him isn't helpful or healthy, and I'll always respect his boundaries when it comes to food. My mom is still slandering me on Facebook, calling me ungrateful and claiming I'm ruining Ronnie by not letting her fix him. She's been spreading misinformation about autism and accusing me of alienating her from Ronnie. It's exhausting, but I've been ignoring her as much as I can and focusing on Ronnie's well-being. I've decided to channel my frustration into a project, a revenge dinner. It's petty, sure, but after what she put Ronnie through, I think it's a fitting way to make my point. I'm planning a meal with all the food she absolutely despises: liver, black licorice, pickled herring, and a mushroom-heavy casserole. She can't stand mushrooms. Of course, I won't force her to eat anything. I'm not her, but I think the message will be clear: respect other people's boundaries, especially when it comes to food. If she doesn't show up, well, that's fine too. It'll just be a fun dinner for me. Thank you to everyone who's been supportive. Ronnie is doing much better now that he's in a calmer environment, and I'm doing my best to keep things peaceful for him. I'll let you all know how the dinner goes. Stories number 46. Am I the asshole for letting my brother M50 be homeless instead of letting him move in with me M30? Long story short, my partner just gave birth to our child. It's just me, her, and the baby in a small apartment. Don't have any other family besides an estranged sister. Both my parents are deceased, so there's no one to really give guidance or help any of us. My brother is getting evicted and asking to move in with me, but I'm afraid his lifestyle along with his decision-making just make it an impossible thing to do. I'm also not doing much better than him. I'm also poor and need help myself, but at the very least I'm keeping my bills paid. Not to mention my partner is not interested in this idea at all, because why would she? But also this is our bonding time. It's frustrating for me because I feel bad on one side, but at the same rate I also resent him because he's way older than me, had an actual relationship with our parents and benefited from them. Edit. Hey, thanks everyone. I appreciate everyone's words more than you know. I obviously feel bad. It's my older brother, but I feel justified to say no. I realistically don't have the time, patience, or inclination. I told him I'd go as far as to help store some of his items and offer the occasional shower/meal. Pretty much all I can do. Again, thanks everyone. Stories number 47. My family is mad. I filed a police report on my sibling. Today my sister 25 and I 27F had gotten into an argument. We have not been getting along recently for a lot of things. I don't not have my driver's license right now, so I was in her car while she was driving. I asked if we could stop at the grocery store. She declined, saying she only wanted to get coffee. I was upset, and I will admit I said when I was driving I never had an issue driving her anywhere, even when she has and has always had a car, so I told her she was being unfair. She called me stupid, punched me in the face at a red light. I was really caught off because yes, we were arguing, but I would never put hands on anyone, so it was a shock. My glasses broke, and now a few hours later my eye have a black eye. After all of this I don't know what to do. I need my glasses to see. I know I'm 27, but I usually call my mom for advice, but she's not well right now and wasn't awake. My boyfriend and his grandma convinced me it was probably a good idea to file a police report. I did, and I feel like a bad sister. They told me she'd get a citation, and Have to pay to fix my glasses. My dad told me I was as wrong for calling the police. Family. Even worse, my mom seems very upset, saying it was my fault for getting in her car. Maybe she's right and I should have just let it go. I feel bad, my face hurts and I feel like I upset everybody. Stories number 48. Am I the asshole for not telling my family I bought another car? They are feeling I am untrustworthy. 3 years ago I bought my first car with my own money saved. I loved and cherished this car, but one day taking my mom home from work, I got in a car crash. A car was speeding and crashed into my driver's side door. It was so bad the car was totaled. My mom and I went to the hospital. We were both fine. While in the hospital, I called my sister to pick us up and she never came. She said that she didn't want to lose her parking spot, so me and my mom Ubered to our home. Instead of calling me the next few days to check in and helping me get a new car, both my mom and sister called all my family to let them know I totaled my car. I was so upset. They were gossiping about me, so anytime they brought up my car, I told them I don't want to talk about it. My whole family told me I bought my car too soon and were worried anytime I drove. What really upset me was that they never encouraged me and helped me with anything concerning the car. My sister even mentioned that it was karma. I'm like, WTF, what karma? I'm a good person and even helped her many times. After this situation, I stopped trusting my family with certain matters and stopped sharing aspects of my life. The whole situation was weird, and when I needed them the most I felt like they were not there. Fast forward, I bought my second car and never told them. I currently live in another state, so there is no way for them to know I've had this car for almost 2 years and never said anything to them. Well, I told a family member I had a car and told them not to say anything, but of course they told my mom and sister. I feel like this is such a stupid situation, but my mother and sister feel like it's weird I never said anything, especially because I talk to them frequently. So they feel like I'm untrustworthy for lying about it for years. I technically didn't lie, I just never said I was driving and left them to assume I didn't have a car. They are both very upset and feel like it was strange of me to do. To me, I don't get why it matters. Me having a car has no impact on their lives. It's my car, not theirs, so it shouldn't concern them. This is a very dumb thing to be upset about. TBH. Stories number 49. Am I the asshole for walking out of my mom's house after she forced my autistic son to eat food he hates? I'm a single dad, 32, to my 17-year-old son, Ronnie. He's autistic and has some pretty specific food sensitivities. It's not just that he doesn't like certain foods, some textures are genuinely overwhelming for him. Eggplant, asparagus, apples, and Brussels sprouts are on his list of foods he just can't handle, and I've always respected that. My mom, on the other hand, doesn't. She's never really taken the time to understand Ronnie's needs and insists that he's just being picky or difficult. I've tried to explain it to her many times, but she doesn't seem to take it seriously. Recently, she invited us over for dinner. She said it would be a nice family evening, and I figured we'd give it a shot. When we got there, I immediately noticed that most of the dishes she'd prepared were things Ronnie struggles with. It felt intentional, like she was trying to prove a point. Ronnie was visibly uncomfortable but tried to stay polite. I could tell he was trying his best to handle the situation, but eventually, it became too much for him. He started tugging at his hair, something he does when he's overwhelmed. Instead of showing any understanding or compassion, my mom became upset with him for it. At that point, I decided enough was enough. I told her we were leaving and took Ronnie home. He was really upset and told me how embarrassed and humiliated he felt. It broke my heart. Since then, my mom has been flooding my phone with angry messages, accusing Ronnie of being ungrateful and me of spoiling him. She's also posted about the situation on Facebook, calling us both disrespectful and making it seem like she was just trying to help. Some family members think I should apologize to smooth things over. But I honestly don't see why I should. I feel like I did the right thing by putting Ronnie first, but with all the backlash, I'm starting to second guess myself. Am I the asshole? Stories number 50. Am I the asshole for not telling my ex-wife about our son's talent show and then telling her it's not my fault she's fucking up her relationship with our kids? My ex-wife 40F and I 40M have 2 children together, Amy 12F and Noah 11M. We used to be civil. Even though our breakup and divorce could be described as messy, it was for the best. We got along better than a lot of divorced parents I've known. We always shared custody of our children, and my ex-wife had another child soon after our marriage ended. My ex-wife remarried about 3 years after our divorce, and she and her husband have 3 children together. So my ex has 6 children, and I understand this can mean it's hard to give all the kids individual time, but our kids have felt increasingly like they matter less than their half-siblings. They have brought up the fact their half-siblings get 1:1 time with her, and not just when they're with me, but that they can also ask for time with just her or just their dad, but if they ask for time with just their mom they are told she doesn't have time or that they have a big family, and since they aren't always there they should want time with everyone. There has also been trouble for them for introducing me and my ex as their parents and saying ex's husband is their stepdad. They also say their half-siblings are half-siblings, and my ex doesn't like it. She said her third child doesn't say it, but she hasn't got a relationship with her dad and our kids pointed that out, so it's different for her. My ex told them there should be no halves or step for stepdad, that they're all family. She throws the fact they live with me 50% of the time as a reason for them to not use it and to not want time alone with her, but she and her other kids are open when mom takes one to the arcade or trampoline park when Amy and Noah aren't there. I know Amy had this Mother's Day thing at her music class and she asked her mom to come and her mom brought the other girls so they could have a girls' day. Another time Amy wanted her mom to drive her to a show she was performing in and her mom said they should make it a family thing, so she asked if I could take the day off work to do it. It was my parenting time, but since I was working and Amy wanted her mom, I said it was fine if she asked her, and I said of course her mom wasn't happy about it, but Amy said she hadn't wanted a family thing. Noah has invited his mom to take part in his cooking classes and she's always wanting to bring her husband or some of the other kids. He also wanted a celebratory milkshake with her when he got a good grade, even though his school fucked up and didn't have his aide there for a test. He has dyslexia and requires an aide with him, but she insisted it couldn't be 1:1. There are multiple examples of this. And we're at the point where the kids would love to live with me more, but they have to be 16 at minimum for a judge to agree to listen to their wishes. Noah had a talent show at school last week and it was my parenting time, but we both get notified when something is going on. Noah decided not to say anything to his mom or invite her. She found out about it because he won and it was posted on social media. She called to complain and I had to take over because she was really upsetting Noah. She told me I should have told her and I said I didn't have to, that we both get notified and it's on us as individuals to keep up to date on that kind of activity. She accused me of coming between her and the kids and I told her it's not my fault. She's fucking up her relationship with them by denying them 1:1 time with just her. She told me it wasn't fair and it's easier for me because I only have Amy and Noah. I brought up the fact she has time for her other kids and that they can ask for her to be alone in supporting them and she will find a babysitter or have her husband stay with the kids, but she can't be bothered to do it for our kids. She called me an ass and accused me of coming between them. Stories number 51. Am I the asshole here for refusing to give my late husband's possible affair baby any money? My husband passed away almost 3 years ago, leaving me a solo mom of an 8-year-old. I've learned a lot about who he really was since then. Let's just say that if he were alive, we wouldn't still be married. About 6 weeks ago, a process server showed up trying to serve him with a court order to submit DNA for a kid. I gave him a copy of the death certificate and sent him on his way. Shortly after that, a woman shows up on my doorstep saying that the kid she had with her was my late husband's child. Is it? I don't know and I don't care. It kind of looks like him, but also looks young enough that they would have had to have been conceived very, very shortly before his death. I told her that he was gone and where she could find his grave. She almost immediately started demanding her half of his estate. I laughed and told her that half of nothing was nothing and she was welcome to that. Where I've been informed that I might be TA is that while it's true there was no estate, there were assets that passed outside of probate. One of those assets was a rental property that his parents gave us years ago, deeded with him and I as joint tenant with rights of survivorship. In short, it became mine when he died. I've already sold it and that will be the money that sends my kid to college legally. I'm good. Already talked to my attorney about this. While I feel bad for this child, I also have a child of my own to look out for. I'm going to edit this to answer a few questions that I've gotten. No, there was no will in place for him in my state. Intestate inheritance laws say that if the only heirs are me and my child, then the first $50,000 of the estate go to me and my child gets half of what's left. If this does turn out to be his child, then half of the estate would go to me and half to the children, i.e. my child would get 25% and the other child would get 25%. However, that is a moot point because his estate was literally an empty bank account and $40 in cash. Everything else passed outside of probate. A good estate attorney is worth every penny, even if I never could get him to meet with her to do his damn will. There was no life insurance. Yes, I'm in the US and my child is receiving survivor's benefits. They aren't huge, but they do pay for the therapy bills. He hadn't worked for a vast majority of our marriage, but luckily did have enough credits to qualify at this point. I'm not opposed to helping the other child receive the same benefits since it won't affect mine. However, my attorney has recommended to hold off at this time because we don't know what she's planning. She assures me that if the other mother files with Social Security that they will backdate any payments to at least the date filed, so holding off won't affect the total amount if it does turn out to be his child. I have no idea if she knew he was married at the time or not. My husband's parents are alive, but our relationship is strained. At best, I haven't told them about any of this and have done my best to let them keep believing that their son was a saint. Update. I posted here several months ago and thought I'd make an update now that almost everything is settled. So, it is his child, or at least there's enough shared DNA to determine that my in-laws are the grandparents, and there's no way that it's their other sons. The biggest update is that the mother doesn't currently have custody. I'm still a bit unsure of the timeline. But there might have already been a CPS case open when she first contacted me. She's apparently a fan of the same illicit substances that my husband was. That would explain how they met. Unfortunately, that means that the child is now in foster care. My in-laws were not deemed an appropriate placement, and I won't do it. I have been working with the caseworker with regards to getting Social Security benefits for the child in my state. Survivor benefits offset any child support obligations, so even if there was an estate, the SS benefits most likely exceed the amount he would owe based on his work history prior to death. This hasn't affected my own child's benefits. I still haven't determined exactly what I will do with this information going forward. I have set aside some money in an online savings account, but it's still in my name until the mother's rights are completely terminated or the child ages out of the system. I don't want anything that would possibly give her access to it. I will also eventually have to tell my child that there is a sibling out there. I've been through the ringer over the last couple of months and I'm still just so fucking mad that I'm still cleaning up my husband's mess. Stories number 52. Our elf on the shelf is dead forever and I am so relieved. Last year my son, then 9, decided elf on the shelf was not real when he had a friend over, touched it, picked it up, threw it on the floor and later electrical taped it to a robot vacuum. My youngest was watching and laughed and I thought, finally, nobody believes in this annoying elf anymore. So, Pinecone the elf disappeared after that this December. My youngest child asked if elf on the shelf was coming back and I told her no. Pretty sure her brother had killed him forever, and I don't even feel guilty because the holiday season is so much less stressful without it. To all parents, do not get sucked into getting an elf on the shelf. They will be the bane of your existence for years to come.